Completely different from the rat-a-tat of a rifle, the Type 80 machine gun next to me roared like a cannon, shaking the street corner like an earthquake. In less than 3 seconds, something rushed out of Ma Fei's house. With just one glance, I knew immediately. It was the holy scarabs, exactly like the mummified bugs we encountered outside the barrier. Fist-sized, they locked onto their targets the moment they appeared and surged forward like a black tide, covering the ground, swarming in a terrifying mass. This is bad. Fire. Don't reload. As soon as Dowdu saw them, he tucked his tail and ran for his life. His eyes were filled with terror. He had clearly tasted the ferocity of this swarm before. Muir was much more resilient. Hearing my shout, he immediately flipped the safety. With his bulldozer-like bare arms, he wielded 2 machine guns at once. Combined with mine, the 3 of us formed a wall of metal fire. The bullets hitting the bugs clinked as if striking steel plates. Occasionally, a few shots hit their weak points, shattering them. Black blood sprayed out, corroding the soil beneath. Muir, keep the fire steady. Wait for my command. Their numbers were growing. I quickly glanced at my magazine. No time to think. I pulled out the Molotov cocktails I had prepared from my storage space and threw them straight into the center of the swarm. Under the hail of bullets, the gasoline exploded with a boom and burned fiercely. It didn't do much damage, but the fire made them writhe as if being skinned, scattering in panic. I immediately threw 4 more Molotovs. The flames roared, and the stench of burning bugs filled the air. 5 minutes later, our ammo was almost completely depleted. Fortunately, the bugs were also mostly burned to a crisp. Only a few were left, fleeing in panic. Is it still dangerous? Oreo shook his head vigorously. I grabbed my rifle and shot the remaining ones one by one. Stepping over the pile of bug corpses, I cautiously entered the wooden fenced compound. Swish. The moment my foot crossed the boundary, the scene before me changed in the blink of an eye. What is this? A shelter? I turned back to look at Dowdu and Muir, who were still standing outside, goosebumps covering my neck. Stepping back, it was a desolate garden full of charred bug corpses. Stepping forward, they vanished completely, replaced by a pile of tiny robot corpses scattered like electronic components. In the distance, a familiar building from the game faintly appeared, a genuine 4-story shelter. The clean path had disappeared, leaving only overgrown weeds, like a country trail after a storm. The 3-story villa also reverted to its true form, just a clay shelter exposing 2 dilapidated floors. The 3-layer iron fence that I thought was as solid as a fortress was now rusted and about to break. Around the building that once belonged to Ma Fei were piles of white bones, likely from creatures that tried to break in and died here. But outside the fence, the town remained exactly the same. Spotless, smooth roads, streetlights shining with technological brilliance. In the garden, the holy scarab corpses were still there. Looking closely, their small mouths were still twitching in the wind, as if alive. What kind of technology is this? Fooling the senses? Outside is like a real world. Inside is like a mirror stripping everything bare. I raised my gun, aimed at a streetlight, and fired 2 shots. Bang! Bang! The sound of metal clashing was clear, but there were no bullet holes. When I stepped inside, 2 deep bullet holes appeared on that streetlight. It was as if this garden was a magic mirror splitting 2 worlds. One for the sane, one for those who dare to face the truth. If your mind isn't strong, staying here too long will drive you crazy. I bent down and picked up 2 holy scarabs, the things that terrified me outside, and chuckled. No wonder bullets didn't work, but fire did. Fire dispelled the illusion, revealing their true form. These bugs were actually just small robots, their bodies riddled with 7.62 mm bullet holes from head to toe. They were still holding familiar tools, mini saws, cutters, small welders. Inside their heads were circuit boards, just like miniature CPUs, typical digital worker robots, not meant for combat. Could it be that the mystical items were made by these little guys? The central core still belonged to Ma Fei. The control panel showed nothing. The system was completely disabled. It felt exactly like what I encountered at Ma Gu's shelter. It turned out the grand ruin I was trying to explore was just a personal shelter core belonging to the big shots. I wasn't in a hurry to go inside. I called Muir over. The 2 of us pulled out the large bags we had prepared. We gathered every broken robot, prioritizing the intact ones. Those with blown cores or damaged chips were separated. Realizing it took a whole day to recover each robot, I immediately picked the 5 most intact ones and stuffed them into the bag along with a pile of parts. If I can fix them and reprogram them outside, I won't have to worry about a shortage of engineers on the ship. I stood up, nodding in satisfaction. It only took 7 days, totally acceptable. Now it's time to enter this simple yet mysterious building. The collapse always starts from the central core. On the outside, this place looked like a luxury mansion. Outsiders would think it was a high-end villa. But with the energy completely drained, the first-floor door burst open with a light nudge from Muir. Inside, it was pitch black. Next time I go exploring, I definitely need to make a toy rover. Sticking my head in like this is way too dangerous. I shine my flashlight deep inside, waiting for my heart rate to drop before relaxing a bit. First, thanks to Oreo's warnings, I could dodge the sensor traps. Second, technology. When there's no energy, most automated defenses are just chunks of iron. Third, with a town built this decently, I didn't believe Ma Fei would turn it into an anti-human base. Based on the level of weathering, I estimated how long this place had been abandoned. Over 50 years, but probably not more than 100. Probably not from the same era as Magu. The once luxurious carpet was now as rotten as sawdust, crumbling at the slightest touch, floating in the flashlight beam. Opening the rusted door, it snapped off as soon as I stepped on it. Even though I was sure there were no major dangers left inside, I still didn't dare let my guard down. Seeing Dowdu still cowering outside the door, I waved him over. Hey you. Yeah you. Get over here, quick. Humans fear weapons, but these mist-like creatures are completely different. At worst, they get injured and regenerate on the spot, completely unharmed. With such an ethereal nature, they were born to be scouts. Called back by me, the cowardly mastiff Dowdu froze after taking just a few steps. Its jaw dropped as it blurted out, "Wow. Unbelievable. The mayor actually lived in a dump like this." Before it could start philosophizing about whether Ma Fei was an honest official or not, I told it to turn around and look outside. Boom. Crash. Right before my eyes, Dowdu stood as stiff as a statue. Not just physically still, but completely soul-shocked. Then it suddenly dashed in and out of the door like a maniac, as if it couldn't believe what it was seeing. Amidst that chaotic scrambling, I could even hear the sound of its heart shattering into pieces. If you want to completely break someone's spirit, just show them that the world they've lived in all this time is fake. A simulation. An illusion. The massive visual shock caused Dowdu's mind to completely collapse. The two contrasting worlds left it unable to tell what was real and what was fake. But deep down, it felt that my words were the actual truth. Could it be? It wasn't them who abandoned me, but this town that abandoned all of humanity? Hearing that mutter, I paused. A theory flashed through my mind, almost perfectly explaining everything. Why did the residents evacuate? Why did they flee in such a panic, as if forced to leave immediately? Could it be that Ma Fei died first, triggering some mechanism that made everyone realize staying meant certain death, forcing them to retreat? No, that's not right. Then where did the images outside the barrier I saw come from? Were they illusions too? The whole town didn't have a single scrap of paper, not a single written word left behind. To find the truth, I could only rely on the smallest details. I sighed, then bent down, grabbed the flower wreath around Dowda's neck, and dragged it inside. The secrets you want to know are all in there. You won't die. Go ahead and lead the way for us. Dragged along in a daze, Dowdu had no strength to resist. It trudged inside like it had just lost its soul. I held the flashlight, sweeping it across the first floor, letting it check every dark corner first. Only after making sure there were no traps or dangerous mechanisms did I safely step inside. There wasn't much left on the first floor. The wind blowing through the broken front door for decades had caused severe decay. The soft sofa crumbled into dust with a single press, and the rusted iron frame snapped at the slightest touch. But what made me stop was a book resting on a stone coffee table. Its cover was faded, but it was still intact. Like an irresistible poison, the moment I saw the familiar Chinese characters on the cover, I immediately stepped closer. Yin Nation. Tianxi. Liangfang Town. Mayor's Handbook. Reprinted in May, year 4 of the new calendar, post-apocalypse. Even though it was heavily worn, The large words were still legible. Sure enough, this wasn't the Earth I knew. Knowing for certain that I wasn't on my original Earth, I breathed a sigh of relief. If this ruin belonged to a parallel Earth, that would be a real headache. But if it was just a wasteland ravaged by the apocalypse where humans built a new civilization, then this was incredibly valuable news. It might even contain secrets of the future. If I could get my hands on those secrets, combined with the experiences of those who came before, I could see the future ahead of my time. The Ma family is really too kind. First there was Ma Gu, and now Ma Fei. It breaks my heart. Ma Fei, you were such a good guy, and now you're gone. In the apocalyptic era, the value of books is higher than high-tech gadgets, especially for someone armed to the teeth like me. Having books is a massive profit. I wouldn't even trade them for a tank. Muir, guard the front door. Oreo, keep an eye on every possible entry point. After giving the orders, I found a good spot to observe the entire outside area. I set up the flashlight, shining it down, and was so careful that I even put 2 plastic bags over my hands before flipping open the first page of that thick handbook. The ancients were right. Paper can last 1,000 years. Books printed using Huaxia's ancient techniques, or the improved industrial paper of later generations, can easily last anywhere from decades to centuries. So, aside from the cover being battered by the wind and sand, the inside was still perfectly readable, just like Ma Gu's diary. Let's see. The first page is a serial number, or some code I don't recognize. The first line was all alphanumeric characters. I couldn't read it, so I skipped it and started from the Chinese text. After skimming just a few lines, I burst into an excited laugh. I can believe it now. Another brother from a parallel Earth. The Yanwang Democratic Developed Nation, Yan Nation for short. Established on June 1st, year 1 of the new post-apocalyptic calendar. Located in the eastern part of the new continent, bordering the west coast. Yan Nation has a population of 1.1 million and an area of 3.5 million square kilometers. It is divided into 6 provinces: Central, Northwest, Southeast, Tianxi, Haikou, and Shanbei. Each province is autonomous, but national strategy is coordinated by the central government. This handbook is exclusively for the administrator of Tianxi Province, Ma Fei. If found, please return to the nearest government office. Last reprinted in May, year 4 of the new post-apocalyptic calendar. I chuckled softly. Yan Nation. A true country in the middle of the wasteland. A population of over 1 million, a territory of 3.5 million square kilometers. Humanity is truly badass. Even in the apocalypse, they managed to build such a massive nation. Every line of machine-printed Chinese characters was neat, clear, and impossible to forge. I had no more doubts. Just like Ma Gu, these people definitely came from a parallel Earth too. Every generation makes its own choices. Ma Gu's expeditionary force chose direct confrontation, hunting for secrets at all costs. As for this generation, they fought to survive, to rebuild humanity's home on this dead land. Looking at the time-yellowed pages, I could almost see the silhouettes of my Yan Nation compatriots rising up amidst the disaster, gritting their teeth to live, striving to create hope for the future. Even though none of them are left now, what they left behind isn't meaningless. Willpower. Memories. Spirit. The dead land has no memories, but the written word does. Living creatures pass on their legacy through genes, while humans pass it on through paper and history. That's enough. Ma Fei's generation took a completely different path. Relying on mystical powers, they founded a nation. They sheltered over 1 million Yan Nation compatriots. They survived the oceanic disaster and reached the new continent. They went further than Ma Gu, further than even us. Reading this, I can only sigh. The Expeditionary Legion generation failed. They had grand visions, but chose the wrong path. To think an elite like Ma Gu couldn't even make it to the day the oceans rose. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Of course, their goal was to uncover the truth. But first, you have to survive. Up to now, at least 2 generations of our Yan country compatriots have set foot here. All of this is invaluable experience. If I don't study at all, if I don't fully understand their weaknesses and mistakes, how can I go further? How can I touch the ultimate truth of this dead land? I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of dying and leaving behind a bunch of cryptic puzzles for the next generation. That's not hope. That's a form of torture. Ever since I got the system, my narrow-minded peasant mentality has gradually been replaced by curiosity, a thirst for exploration, a burning desire to understand this entire world. Carrying that fire, I flipped through the rest of the first page, which recorded the basic laws of Yin country, and moved on to the second page. From here on out, there was no more typed text. It started with the handwritten notes of Mayor Ma Fei himself. January 5th, year 4 of the new calendar. Liangfang town is officially established. Liang for goodness, Fang for commerce. Hoping it becomes a place of prosperous and honest trade. As its first appointed mayor, I feel both honored and anxious. March 1st. First trade run with Hanwu City in Shanbei Province. Had to pass through 3 alien tribe territories. 5% toll each, totaling 15%. Receiver, Wang Chuan. Everything went smoothly. May 5th. Fourth trade run with Jiangxian City. Passed through 5 alien tribe territories. 7% toll each, totaling 35%. Receiver, Meng Qihong. Everything went smoothly. Note, negotiate to lower tolls or change routes. June 1st, National Day. Town population, 8,600. Massive material consumption. Note, tighten control over strangers. Strengthen the defense of the Heavenly Palace Shield. January 1st, Year 5. Ninth trade run. Receiver, Wang Chuan died unexpectedly during negotiations. Threat level of the Huahu and Shanzhou alien tribes raised to level 1. March 5th, Year 7. 22nd trade run. Toll fees increased by 50%. Receiver, Li Feiyu. Besieged by the Smen Pig tribe for 2 days and 2 nights. Route temporarily suspended. March 7th, Year 8. Volcanic disaster. Threat level 2. Heavenly Palace Shield protection, level 1. Expected survival rate, 100%. Population, 54,355. Note, reduced to 35,000 to stabilize operations. June 1st, Year 9. 31st trade run failed. Population down to 32,000. Began expelling all strangers. Banned immigration of unregistered residents. Began dismantling structures outside the protective wall. Mayor Ma Fei departed for Hualien to report. I flipped to the next page. July 1st. The next trade caravan went missing. Supplies insufficient for 5,000 people. Began dismantling houses. Reduced the protection radius. Expelled another 3,000 people. Right after September, an unprecedented disaster appeared. A biological virus. No directives from superiors. Lost contact with Hualien. Liangfang has no more supply drops. Note, expel another 1,000 people. Keep 1,000 core residents. Shrink protection to the absolute minimum. Ma Fei personally went to Xiamping for help. A total of 36 pages. A complete record from the moment Ma Fei took office until the town plunged into absolute despair. 5.5 years. Over 2,000 days. Over 30 trade runs. Faced major disasters 5 times. Every countermeasure was recorded in stark detail. This town had reached its peak, once boasting 54,000 permanent residents. They had enough stockpiled supplies for 20,000 people to eat, sleep, and slack off for a whole year without lifting a finger. Even when things went downhill, they still maintained a population of over 30,000. 50,000 people. Ma Fei truly turned Liangfang town into a miracle in the apocalypse. Transporting 9 million kilos of food in a single trade run. What kind of insane scale is that? The mayor's log was mostly report-style content meant for superiors, so the wording was very formal. Every trade item had its volume clearly recorded. Just looking at those numbers made my head spin. The barrier surrounding Liangfang town was referred to in the log as the Heavenly Palace Shield. And no, it wasn't some homemade gadget from Liangfang. It was standard-issue defense equipment distributed by the Yin country government. Synchronized installation. Required a professional tech team for maintenance. As for its defensive capabilities, it was no joke. Just knowing it could withstand a volcanic eruption while guaranteeing a 100% survival rate is enough to tell you how terrifyingly strong it was. Just like Ma Gu's diary, what's written on paper doesn't lie. Looking at the handwriting at the end of the log, the ink was smudged, the strokes trembling, as if written in a frantic rush. I could picture Ma Fei scribbling those last few lines before leaving for Hualien to report. and I slowly pieced together what happened to Liangfang town. Ma Fei really did die. And he died out there. Why did the town end up like this? Just looking at the alien tribe's toll fees increasing year by year, and supplies growing scarcer, you can picture the whole grand scheme. The disasters were getting worse. And not just worse. They were mutating. From natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanoes, straight to spreading biological viruses. That was a massive turning point. Enough to catch any defense system completely off guard. Supplies. Humans needed them, and so did the alien tribes. Once the balance was broken, there was only one path left for both sides, a life-and-death struggle. Yin country's technology had also hit a dead end. After branching out into barrier systems like the Heavenly Palace Shield, they made no other significant advancements. Looking at the logs, I got the feeling they were researching something else, refusing to take the next step. In that situation, once the disaster's intensity exceeded the barrier's tolerance, and right when there was no mayor to take the helm, the evacuation of the citizens was an almost inevitable outcome. A biological virus. Sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. Who would have thought I'd encounter it in this dead land? The Heavenly Palace Shield could block natural disasters, but against a human-to-human virus like this, it was completely useless. I lowered my head, carefully reading the notes Ma Fei left behind about the biological virus. An involuntary chill crept up my spine. Those mutated creatures I'd seen outside the barrier all this time actually didn't exist anymore. They were just simulated holograms recorded by the Heavenly Palace, playing on a loop before it died. When the barrier shrank for the last time, with no one to control it and insufficient energy to directly simulate the outside environment, the system had to resort to replaying pre-recorded landscape videos at the edges. Good Lord. Herding all the living creatures onto the new continent and then unleashing a biological plague. Even if you wanted to run, there'd be nowhere to go. So that was the ultimate goal of this evacuation all along. How vicious. I closed the mayor's logbook, looking around the room covered in a thin layer of dust, and shuddered. But that shudder wasn't out of fear. It was out of excitement. Just one biological virus was enough to bring down the Heavenly Palace Shield, humanity's supposedly impenetrable defense. But if we calculate based on when humanity migrated to the new continent, this virus shouldn't appear until the 9th year. Right now, I already have the prototype virus host on hand, and plenty of time to spare. A biological virus? Piece of cake. Thinking back to the time before entering the ruins, I fought that pack of black dogs without getting a single bite or scratch. Suddenly, I realized I was just incredibly lucky. The more I thought about the mutated creatures still trapped in the core of these ruins, the luckier I felt that I chose to come straight to Ma Fei's place first. These surviving creatures absolutely cannot be allowed to die early. Because in the future, when the biological plague returns, they will be a treasure trove for me to dissect and analyze in advance. As long as I can build a proper biological lab, extract the virus structure, and synthesize a serum, a biological virus? Not scary at all. Even if the virus evolves a few more tiers later on, by the 9th year, I'm confident I'll have built an epidemic prevention institute and a research center. I might even ascend to the Heavenly Palace itself and turn those creatures on the ground into an absolute joke. Ultimately, the greatest value of this level 17 core is the Heavenly Palace defense system and this biological virus sample. As long as I can build a real-life version of the Heavenly Palace, enough to withstand common natural disasters, I'll have already won half the battle. I have the system. I can absolutely integrate other tech branches to optimize the Heavenly Palace's blueprints. With that thought, I carefully placed the Liangfang Town Operations Manual into my storage space, marked it as Do Not Discard, and stood up. I began scrutinizing every nook and cranny of this room, which was likely filled with secrets. The Heavenly Palace control system had to be in the mayor's office. Looking at the first floor's layout, this was clearly Ma Fei's office and reception room. It made perfect sense for the logbook to be left right here. Even so, I didn't miss a single detail. From the floorboards to the walls, from under the desk to the base of the cabinets, I scoured every inch like I was scraping off 3 layers of dirt. After a thorough search, I finally found 2 material delivery receipts. They listed the coordinates for Hanwu City and Yanglu City, 2 places that used to trade with Liangfang. Right now, It's unclear why Liangfang's core appeared in my basin like some sort of ruin. But its true physical location is definitely at the coordinates the system saved on the wasteland map. If I can pinpoint Liangfang's actual location and mark it, then after crossing over to the new continent, it's highly likely I can track down those two cities. I carefully tucked the two coordinate records into my storage space, then called Mu Air over to the iron door connecting the first and second floors. Finally, the real challenge revealed itself. Ma Fei was a level 17 big shot, no matter how you slice it. Yin Country's technology might have gone off track, but they did research and developed the Heavenly Palace, one of the most infamous defense systems out there. If the first floor was just a simple reception room, then the second floor, guarded by this terrifyingly thick steel door, was the true threshold to the treasure. I tried knocking on the door. The sound was solid and dull, with no echo. The kind that tells you smashing it is completely useless. This door was tougher than the stone doors of an underground bomb shelter. It had to be at least 10 meters thick. Pure, brute force physical survivalism. Without the right equipment or enough attack power, this door alone would make 90% of people give up right at the starting line. That Ma Fei really was a sly old fox. I started calculating. Dig through the wall from the outside. I walked a lap around the building. It had 4 floors, about 12 meters high, equivalent to 3 shelter cores stacked on top of each other. But there was only one thing that made me curse under my breath. The walls were 10 to 15 meters thick. Even explosives would have a hard time bringing them down. If I actually blew it up, and the system slapped me with a 100-day penalty for attacking a state official, I'd be screwed to the bone. What about breaking it from the inside? The thought flashed and died instantly when I glanced at my remaining time currency. Leaving wasn't an option. But if I didn't get anything, it'd be like entering a treasure vault just to admire the interior design. A double loss. Was there any way to drill through this door legally? Acid. A high-speed drill? I plopped down by the window, looking at the blood-red sky, and closed my eyes to think. Acid would work, if I had any. A drill was pure fantasy. Planting explosives was more realistic. A modern person's mindset looking at a 10-meter thick iron door, with no key, made of solid iron. Yeah, completely helpless. Muir stood nearby, peeking around, then stared at the iron door for a long time. A warrior bear's mindset was simple. If you can't open it. He spat on his paws, rubbed them together, grabbed his 3-edged spear, and started digging at the door. Clang, clang. Every strike sent sparks flying, but the door didn't budge an inch. Muir, stop digging. Even if you dig, it won't. I froze, my eyes widening. Damn it. I was stuck in my own mindset. You have to fight magic with magic. The iron door is too thick, too hard. Modern tools are useless, but I have the system. A thought sparked in my mind. I summoned a familiar item, the exquisite iron pickaxe. A tier 3 iron item. The exquisite pickaxe had a special effect. When striking materials tier 5 or below, there was a chance to cause a shattering effect on a critical hit. One shatter, and a massive chunk would fall off like tofu. As long as I kept smashing, 10 meters of iron was just a matter of time. Even 50 or 60 meters, I'd dig right to the end. Muir, oh Muir, you are the smartest bear I've ever met. I patted his back heavily. He still looked confused, while I laughed like a maniac. I tried swinging the pickaxe at the adjacent wall. Sure enough, the wall material was higher than tier 5. Even with a critical hit, the pickaxe only knocked loose a little dust. The wall didn't budge. Guess I couldn't exploit the system by digging around it. I could only dig the honest way. Every strike against the wall took 5 minutes of effort, but striking the iron door took 20. 1 unit of time currency equaled 72 strikes on the door. To save time, I took an iron block out of my storage space and started practicing my swings first. Every time the critical effect triggered, the pickaxe head flashed, and the force transferred down was so strong my hands gradually went numb. A single critical hit could shatter a chunk of iron the size of a human head. It was a job that required patience, but I still had time. I wasn't in a rush. When I got tired, I sat down to rest, took a sip of water, and chewed on some rations. Once rested, I went back to grinding. As expected of an old survivor, each layer of the door was a full 2 meters thick. A single door must have weighed 20 or 30 tons. If this were a normal civilian house, it would have collapsed ages ago. Just glancing from the outside, It had to be at least 10 layers thick. Truly the mindset of a hardcore survivalist. I didn't know what building materials were used here, but the load-bearing capacity was absolutely insane. After a day and a half, I had broken through 2 layers of iron doors and discovered the second floor's design was a wraparound corridor. Each floor was 4.2 meters high. The first floor was 2.4 meters. But after breaking through 2 layers, I had only advanced half a meter. It was then that I truly understood the caliber of a level 17 core. Not only were the upgrade conditions difficult, but the designer's survive at all costs mentality was also worth learning from. Next time I go back, I need to upgrade all the materials in my shelter. My doors need to be forged like this too. I continued digging for a few more hours. With less than 12 hours left, I decisively stopped taking breaks. I pulled out the Shanghai Scroll Stamina Recovery card, restored my condition, and kept digging. In the past, there was the foolish old man who moved mountains. Today, there's Sue Mo who breaks doors. Out in the yard, the pile of scrap iron grew larger and larger. Oreo used a makeshift cart to haul it all out to the garden. Meanwhile, Dowd is sat nearby chatting with Oreo, babbling endlessly as if he'd found a soulmate. To anyone else, this place was a dangerous ruin. But to me, it was a highly enjoyable session of communal labor. Just like that, with every critical hit, I landed another fatal blow on the door. Over 10 hours of continuous smashing had severely drained my physical and mental stamina. But thanks to over a month of training in the wasteland, I was now an absolute beast. I gritted my teeth and kept smashing. Clang. Ugh. Another critical hit. This time, the sound was different. Through my dirt-streaked face, I finally managed to smile. The door, it echoed. An echo meant that behind this layer of iron, it was no longer a corridor, but an empty space. By my calculations, I only needed a little over an hour to dig through. My spirit blazed so fiercely it felt like someone had injected adrenaline straight into my veins. Every swing of the pickaxe was faster, stronger, sharper. Sparks flew wildly as the iron pickaxe struck the steel door. Clang. Clink. Iron scraps rained down. Muir stood beside me, clearing the debris with his bare paws, opening up more space for me to keep chiseling. I wrapped a cloth over my face, focused all my strength on a single point, and swung the pickaxe relentlessly. Finally, when the clock showed only 6 hours left, crash! It broke. Clouds of dust billowed up. Chunks of shattered iron crashed to the floor, echoing through the room like war drums. Even though my hands were shaking with excitement, I remained extremely cautious. I rested for half an hour, readjusted my physical and mental state, and then called Dowdu over. When we go in, you have to be careful. If anything feels off, run immediately, hear me? I patted the silly dog's head. Seeing him nod like a machine, I lowered my stance, ready to sprint back out at a moment's notice. The first floor already had over 100 construction robots. If the second floor was filled with mystical tech combat robots, I wouldn't dare fight them even if I had 100 lives. But luckily, that wasn't the case. The moment Dowd stepped across the threshold of the second floor, white light flared from the ceiling, shining as bright as day, banishing all the darkness. I had grown used to the dark, so I instinctively squeezed my eyes shut and almost stepped back in reflex. But before I could retreat, a deep, warm male voice rang out, echoing through the room. "Welcome, traveler from the future. Welcome to my shelter. Since you have passed the first trial, come in. You are worthy of knowing the truth." That voice had an indescribable magnetism. It made me freeze right in my tracks. A human? Or Mafe? That voice sounded too much like someone standing right there, fully alive. I curiously poked my head in, and the sight before me made me freeze. Not only was there the high-end computer I'd been drooling over for ages, tossed aside like scrap metal in the corner of the room, but there were also blue energy conduits running across the floor like a giant network of veins. At the far end of the room was a wall made entirely of dormant miniature robots. Not construction robots, but a much higher tier model. Their limbs hung loose, energy rippling across their bodies like gentle waves. But none of that could hold my gaze, because right in the center of the room was a massive cube, at least 4 square meters, towering like a mountain of steel. This item, I was so familiar with it, I'd even dreamed about it. Dreamed about it so much I drooled with craving. Incredible. A vertical missile launcher. This time, I really couldn't hold back anymore. Ma Fei's voice rang out again, this time with a hint of humor. Traveler from the future, you took 13 seconds to think about it. In this man-eat-man apocalypse, one slip up and you're dead. Remember, if you want to live long, you have to be even more careful. 2 short sentences. It sounded like Ma Fei was still alive and kicking in this room. But when he mentioned the number 13, his voice had a slight. I frowned. Just a simple AI? Pre-recorded audio playing in sync? How is this any different from those interactive videos on Bilibili? Even though the voice held no malice, I remained on guard. But seeing that everything was peaceful, I stepped inside. Mu'er and Oreo followed behind. Both of them let out gasps of awe the moment they looked around, unable to hide their surprise. The floor below was a rundown civilian house where the wind blew up clouds of dust. The floor above was a high-tech, modern steel research lab that anyone could tell was top tier. If Dowdu hadn't led the way, I definitely wouldn't have found this entrance. I had caution to spare, and luck was always on my side. I walked to the center of the room, sensing that with just a single thought, I could sweep everything here into my storage space. As long as this scene wasn't a hallucination, no matter what Ma Fei said, I could take it all. From the missile launcher to the entire computer system. The only issue was time. Take it all at once, or negotiate with Ma Fei, even if it was just a voice. Compared to Ma Gu, Ma Fei was clearly stronger. His method of leaving behind a legacy was also more professional. First, let me answer your first question. Where is the core of the Heavenly Palace shield? No preamble. The recorded voice cut straight to the chase. Just as I hoped. The Heavenly Palace core was what I coveted most on this trip. As long as I got the core, I could solve everything in the real world. Ma Fei continued. That's right. Where you are standing is the core. As long as you can control this place, the Heavenly Palace shield will be in your hands. Right after those words, the entire space before my eyes began to transform. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. Every piece of modern metal gradually vanished. In its place, a vast, endless white space bathed in soft light expanded outward. The room before me turned into a massive, empty cocoon, as if all traces of decoration had been wiped clean. What I am about to say is very important. If you have a recording device, turn it on now. If not, take out a pen and paper and take notes. Hearing Ma Fei's voice turn serious, I immediately sat cross-legged and pulled out a pen and paper, ready to write. First, the Heavenly Palace shield was developed and centrally managed by Yin Country. But at this point, the fact that it has rotted from the inside out is no longer a secret. What is the core of the shield? You've probably guessed it. Yes, it is my core. It and I are bound together. The fact that you could enter here proves the shield's energy still remains. My shelter hasn't collapsed yet. It is now your spoil of war. Once you successfully link with my core, you will have full control over the shield, along with the manufacturing and maintenance manuals. Don't rush. Let me organize my thoughts first. Everything I've said so far isn't the main point. The most important part comes next. Speaking 4 sentences in a row, Ma Fei's voice grew hurried. His emotions seemed agitated, as if he harbored a deep-seated hatred for this so-called Heavenly Palace shield. Heavy breathing echoed right by my ear, so clear I could picture him practically pressing his mouth against the mic during the recording. Why was Ma Fei so agitated? What exactly happened? I pressed hard on the paper, writing down 2 keywords, rotted and core link. The first word clearly related to Yin Country's internal issues. And the second word was the key to controlling this entire world. Ma Fei's voice paused. I wasn't in a hurry, just sitting quietly and waiting. Until the breathing faded, and a low, deep male voice rang out again. I don't care what era you're from, or who you are. But remember my words. This shield is poison. It makes you addicted. It strips away your will to fight, turning you into useless scrap metal in the middle of the apocalypse. You think I'm exaggerating? Fine. Let me show you what those idiotic administrators are actually doing in this godforsaken apocalypse. Damn it. Slam. A heavy slap on a desk rang out, shaking the surface. The sound spread from the surround sound system on all sides, piercing straight through the screens of light surrounding me. The sound wave hit me so hard my eardrums felt like they were going to burst. Before Mu'er could even finish flinching and jump up to react, the scene on the screens changed. Even the air and the steel-hard floor began to undergo microscopic changes. Changes so subtle an ordinary person would never notice. But I was different. I had been consuming nether energy water for far too long, trying to trick my senses again. Feeling the dizziness washing over my brain, I paused for a few seconds. Ultimately, I chose to let go of my resistance and immerse myself in the world unfolding before me. And the very next second, the blood-red energy currents beneath the floor began to boil. The dim light flared up so intensely it made me squint. A physiological reflex forced me to slowly close my eyes. The moment my eyelids shut, it was as if I had stepped into a completely different world. My vision vanished, but my hearing and sense of touch were amplified to the extreme. Beneath me was no longer a cold, hard iron floor, but soft grass. Exactly like the front lawn of the deep-sea shelter. I only had to shift my body slightly to immediately smell crushed grass. Taking a deep breath, I could even smell the air. Fresh, pleasant, like standing in a pristine meadow without a speck of dust. It made me want to just keep breathing it in forever. The sound of birds chirping, the babbling of a stream, the rustling of wind through the leaves. And when I opened my eyes, it all truly appeared before me. The walls were gone. In their place was a vast, boundless meadow. The grass reached my knees, still wet with morning dew. Not far away, next to a small stream, was a massive manor with no end in sight. Weren't we just in a room a moment ago? Where the hell is this? Not just Muir, even Oreo jumped up, eyes wide at the completely unfamiliar scenery. Virtual reality tech? I tried plucking a blade of grass. Looking closely, it was no different from real grass. I could even squeeze moisture out of it. I stood dazed for a few seconds, then stepped forward, silently counting my steps. I walked over 30 meters and still didn't hit a wall, but I had reached the edge of the stream. I crouched down. The water was cool, about half a meter deep. The moment I dipped my foot in, a school of fish immediately scattered like they were avoiding a plague. Even though my mind kept reminding me that this was all an illusion, to my five senses, everything felt far too real. Giving up on resisting, I chose to silently wade across the stream and head straight for the manor's doors. The doors opened. Unsurprisingly, two butlers walked out from inside, one male and one female. They smiled warmly, so perfectly standard it felt programmed. You've worked hard. Welcome home, master. The master's pets are truly impressive. As they spoke, they enthusiastically ushered me, the two little ones, and the Tibetan Mastiff Dowdu inside. For the next 2 hours, I was meticulously pampered by beautiful maids in a natural hot spring spanning thousands of square meters. I even swam a few laps. Leaving the bathhouse and turning left, I stepped right into a magnificent palace. Here, I was served a feast of over 240 dishes, ranging from familiar ingredients to bizarre creatures from the wasteland. Even I, a food connoisseur, couldn't find a single flaw in any dish. After eating, another 10 maids took over to lead me onward. Where to? To sleep. Enough. I know what you're playing at. Stop it. From beginning to end, I had been extremely tense. When eating, I only chewed for show and secretly spat it out. If we're just talking about the experience, it wasn't exactly unpleasant. But because I knew perfectly well it was all fake, the artificiality only made me want to rebel even more. Fortunately, unlike when it loaded, when it ended, everything vanished in the blink of an eye. The manor disappeared. The blue sky disappeared. The stream, the meadow, all of it, as if it had never existed. Even Muir, who had been surrounded and pampered by 10 mother bears, could only scratch his head in confusion, looking around the room that had returned to its original, destitute state. Fun, isn't it? Hilarious, right? I'm glad you could stop yourself. But I also feel despair. Even someone seeing this for the first time can tell how dangerous it is. But they couldn't. They refused to see it. Ha 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 ha. It's ridiculous. 1 million people trapped in an illusion, turning into a bunch of parasites. Opening their mouths to talk about dreams, closing their eyes, just wanting to go home. Mafe laughed like a madman. In that laughter, I heard fury and a profound helplessness against the times. But it was his next sentence that made my expression instantly turn serious, my hands quickly grabbing the pen and paper to write. You want to know why the higher-ups pushed so hard for this thing? You think they really wanted to protect us, only to abandon us when things got critical. This is the tragedy of scientists stepping into politics. It's the doomsday of all humanity when they get swept up in the flood of history. Yin country is nothing but a sacrifice created by those scientists to serve their dream of mechanical ascension. The game is just raising goo bugs, and they are raising goo bugs too. They always said there can only be one winner. And before stepping through that door, I finally understood what that meant. Without waiting for me to digest this further, Ma Fei seemed to have made a decision. A 24-inch LCD screen slowly popped out of the wall. An automated support mechanism pushed it into the middle of the empty room. Congratulations, traveler from the future. You are today's winner. You can take all the resources on the second floor. But I will give you a choice. I've set up 4 evaluation tiers and personally left behind a fragment of my true consciousness. It will come and judge your answers. Begin. Make your choice. Will you take everything and run far away? Or will you choose to go against the current, walk your own path, the path that leads to true light? It's your turn. Well, Ma Fei deliberately dragged out the last syllable, sounding incredibly grating, like a noise drilling straight into my ear. Just from that hesitant tone, I easily understood that he had very little confidence in what I, a person from the future, would choose. He wasn't even sure if I'd bother answering the questions. Interesting. Shifting the power of choice back into my hands. It seems my actions and expressions just now triggered the mechanism Ma Fei left behind. We were even having a real interaction. I glanced at the corner of the wall, where a red camera light was blinking, then chuckled softly and strode over to the modest-sized screen. I wasn't afraid of him playing it straight. I was only afraid of him playing vague, deceptive mind games. But I actually quite appreciated Ma Fei's style. I didn't feel the slightest bit of resistance in my heart. At this moment, the screen displayed only one simple question, a single multiple-choice prompt. Do you want to understand the true meaning of life? Do you want to truly live? Yes or no? I paused for a moment, then without hesitation, selected yes. The screen went black. Ma Fei's familiar voice rang out again. Very good. You have made your choice. It seems you're also the extreme rebel type. Quite surprising. Honestly speaking, I really want to see what kind of ending people like you will create this time. Let me be straight with you. In the evaluation system I set up, your compatibility score is 91. So, there will be 3 questions for you coming up. An incredibly simple evaluation screen popped up. Ugh, it was so ugly you could tell an amateur made it at first glance. But the content was infuriatingly detailed. From my standing posture when I entered the first floor, to my expressions during every choice, especially a few key decisions. Everything was clearly recorded. Except for losing points for hesitating for 13 seconds at the start, I got a near-perfect score on the rest. Total, 91 points. I only needed 9 more points to unlock access to the 3rd floor and touch the secrets Ma Fei left behind. 3 questions, 3 points each. Answer 1 correctly, and you can take 1 item free of charge. Answer 2 correctly, take 2 items. Answer all 3 correctly, take everything, and earn the right to enter the 3rd floor. Ready? 3 questions. 9 points. Exactly the number of points I was missing. I looked around once. I didn't see a door or any passageway leading to the 3rd floor. I nodded slightly, then pressed yes again. If just the 2nd floor had this many resources, then the 3rd floor would definitely be even more terrifying. This was the legacy of someone who had survived over 10 years in the apocalypse. I couldn't pass it up. Just taking everything on the 2nd floor alone made playing this game worth it. The fan behind the screen hummed softly, and the first question appeared. Question 1. When you have struggled to survive for years in a desolate wasteland, suddenly one day, a group of strangers appears. They are very powerful, and they say they have found a magical ticket. Holding it allows you to escape the apocalypse and go to a world of pure enjoyment, free from disasters. But in exchange for the ticket, a certain price must be paid. A. Listen carefully to the price. B. Refuse immediately. C. Agree right away. Oh, this wasn't a normal multiple-choice question anymore. It was a choice of lifestyle. Without thinking, I chose A. Listen carefully to the price. Walking away is easy, but a normal person would always want to know what the price is before making a decision. Supplementary question 1. You agreed to listen carefully. But they don't specify the price. They only tell you that they are about to establish a nation, right here on this apocalyptic land. As long as you join, you will be allowed to leave. As for the price, you don't need to know. A. Agree. B. Refuse. C. Still insist on knowing the exact price. Oh, now we're getting serious. My eyes narrowed slightly as I rapidly analyzed the three choices. If Ma Fei took this test and ultimately joined that organization, it means he chose A or C. But more importantly, what did Ma Fei want me to choose? To keep diving deeper, or to cut ties completely? This was a test of human nature now, but I chose C. Still insist on knowing the exact price. I glanced at the corner of the room where the red camera was recording, chuckled softly, and made my selection. Because at this point, it wasn't just about getting to the third floor anymore. I wanted the truth. About how Yin country was born. Knowing why that nation was founded was, to me, more important than resources. Supplementary question 1. After your firm insistence, they finally agree to reveal part of the price. Upon joining, your shelter will instantly be upgraded by 10 levels. But after that, the shelter can never be upgraded again. Tickets to paradise are extremely rare, so you must periodically cooperate with them to host bizarre events like Battle Royale deathmatches, wilderness survival lotteries, etc. You will be assigned a specific position in a specific region, working for over 10 years, leading civilians through disasters to accumulate merit. A. Agree. B. Refuse. Oh, so Ma Fei's level 17 base was just a straight-up handout from this. I narrowed my eyes, reading the lines over and over, confirming this wasn't a joke. If this was true, then the organization that founded Yin country could manipulate shelter cores. This wasn't just technology anymore. They had definitely grasped some sort of secret that defied human logic. If it were me facing this choice, would I agree or refuse? At this point, I no longer felt like I was solving a puzzle. I genuinely thought about what my heart would choose if this were real. Join a nation founded by my own people? Or absolutely refuse to trust them and walk my own path? The screen didn't rush me at all. It even went into sleep mode, as if patiently waiting for me. If I stood in Ma Fei's shoes, choosing B to refuse was probably the right answer. But I didn't want to follow someone else's answer. I wanted to know what I wanted. Talk about truly risking your life. Just daring to let a bunch of strangers sit in front of me to dictate terms meant I'd already lost my edge. What the hell is there to negotiate? Thinking of this, I let out a hearty laugh and pressed B, refuse. Question 2. Use one sentence to clearly state the reason for your choice in question 1. Before I could even gather my thoughts, the screen jumped to the second question. There was no evaluation of the previous answer. Oh, so here's the trap. Whether you chose to agree or refuse in the previous question, it wasn't scored. The reason was the key. If the reason wasn't sound, you'd fail the whole test. Do it well, and you'd bag a clean 6 points. Just one sentence? Simple enough. Follow my heart. I smiled, opened the virtual keyboard, and my hands flew like the wind, typing out a sentence full of pragmatic spirit. That so-called shelter is my sanctuary, forcing me to freeze its level. 10 levels isn't enough. You gotta pay more. As soon as it appeared, I hit send. Instantly, the screen glitched. Lines of white static covered it like snow. The energy system beneath the floor hummed and vibrated. The room's temperature spiked. A heavy cough burst from the speakers. It was no longer a fluent AI voice, but the voice of a human who had just woken up. Traveler from the future, your answer is interesting. It's been a long time. A really long time since I've met someone this interesting. Ma Fei's voice gradually became clear. Refusing makes sense, yet you aren't rigid. You know how to be flexible, how to calculate for yourself. Someone with a mind like that. I'll let you pass this one. Ding, ding. The screen returned to normal. A green checkmark popped up in the right corner. The score jumped to 97. I officially had the right to take any 2 items and was one step closer to the third floor. The third question. You can choose to do it right now or come back next time. Choose. Yes or no. Without a shred of hesitation, I chose yes. Wait half a year to come back. Too many variables. Best to handle it right now. Question 3. If I told you that every time a supply shipment was robbed by alien tribes, it was because of orders from the higher-ups. If I told you that Liangfang town wasn't established for trade, but to drain the supplies of Shanbei province. Then, what is your perspective? What? I stood frozen. That question struck my mind like a bolt of lightning. The alien tribe's looting was directed by the higher-ups? Liangfang was established to deplete an entire province's food supply. What the hell were the higher-ups doing? I muttered, recruitment, tickets, the shield, alien tribes. A story about a certain Yiksha dragon flashed in my mind. Someone who protected their clan with everything they had, only to personally destroy the entire clan in the end just to execute a grand scheme. Wasn't that story far too similar to Yin Country? Truly, a terrifying game of chess. Humanity was raised like goo bugs in a cocoon called the shield, and the alien tribes sucked blood to survive through looting. When the deadline arrived, all they had to do was cut off supplies and remove the shield, and both sides would tear each other apart. And by then, humans would have forgotten how to survive, while the alien tribes had never learned to fend for themselves. Both would have only one path left, death. This was their ultimate goal all along. The old cooling fan whined in bursts. The room gradually became stifling, baking hot. But at this moment, I felt chilled to the bone, as if I had just fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cellar. Heaven and earth are ruthless, treating all creation as straw dogs. The sage is ruthless, treating the people as straw dogs. An ancient proverb suddenly surfaced in my mind, sharp as a blade, impossible to erase. I straightened my back, as if holding a spear. My fingers rested on the keyboard like red-hot spearheads. The screen before me was the enemy. Every word I was about to write carried murderous intent. I started typing, every stroke like flying dragons and dancing tigers. I opened the diary to take a look, thinking there was nothing to it. Every crooked page just had a few words written, must fight to the end. But the more I read, the stranger it felt. Reading until midnight, I finally understood what lay between the lines. The entire diary of that town only had two massive words, cannibalism. The moment I finished typing those two words, an explosion like thunder echoed through the room. The entire ruin shook violently. Heaven and earth flipped. The light twisted. The space felt like it was going to explode. Even though the monitoring mechanism was gone, the heavenly shield was still pierced to its core by that answer. It reacted violently, as if wanting to eradicate the anomaly before it. Compared to those who only woke up when everything collapsed, someone like me, who saw through the nature of the game from the very beginning, was 100 times more dangerous. But then, a roar like a lion echoed through the room, forcing all the tremors to a halt. Cannibalism. Exactly. These rules, this nation, this era, they are all eating people alive. A glowing green checkmark popped up on the screen. A rumbling sound began to echo. On the ceiling, the door to the third floor slowly appeared. The Heavenly Palace shield didn't just protect humanity. It was also like an information cocoon. Those who met the standard were nurtured further. Those who awakened too early were immediately erased. If it weren't for Ma Fei's countermeasure, I had no doubt this shield would have forced me to smash it to pieces right then and there. Is that it? Trying to use violence to shackle free thought? Watching the shield's impotent rage, I curled my lip into a cold sneer, then turned to observe the newly appeared passageway. Unlike the second floor's prehistoric steel style, the door to the third floor had a much more high-tech vibe, and the material was vastly superior. I stepped forward and placed my hand on its freezing surface. The noise behind me gradually died down. Then, Ma Fei's familiar voice rang out once more. Hello, traveler from the future. I am Ma Fei. It's a pleasure to meet you under such special circumstances. Haha, you look surprised. What's wrong? Didn't expect me to be so handsome? On the 24-inch screen appeared a weathered face. Dark, tan skin, etched with the rough marks of wind and frost. But those eyes were bright and fierce, clearly not belonging to someone who would easily yield. His hair was cropped short, as if shaved off with a survival knife. A stubbly chin. No matter how you looked at him, he was the type of guy who had survived by rolling in the mud. Heh, this cognitive avatar might actually be more human than a real person. Hey, Ma Fei, do you know anyone named Liu Benwei? Liu Benwei? Who the hell is that? I think I had a grandpa surnamed Liu back in the day, but that wasn't his name. Completely unlike those rigid AIs, his consciousness avatar was as lively as a living person. He even knew how to joke around, making me laugh. It felt like a genuine conversation, not just exchanging data. A minute passed. After confirming we were both from Earth, of the same nation but from different timelines, the relationship between us naturally grew much closer. Who would have thought? In the same place, meeting a fellow countryman from a different time. The name Huaxia sounds way better than Yin Country. Ma Fei had a hearty personality. If he wasn't trapped behind a screen, we probably would have dragged each other out for a few drinks. But the countdown timer in the bottom right corner of the screen was still ticking, showing 5 minutes left. The consciousness he left on the second floor didn't have much time left. If I wanted to see him again, I had to go up to the third floor. Your answer satisfied me greatly. The door to the third floor is open. Whether you can make it up there or not depends on your own strength. If you're not strong enough, knowing will only bring you more trouble. If you are strong enough, you'll understand my intentions. Oh, and let me tell you up front, there's nothing on the upper floor you can take by force. Don't go thinking about robbing this poor old man blind. As if seeing right through my thoughts, Ma Fei burst out laughing, giving me an I know exactly what you're thinking look that made me laugh along. On this second floor, those machines on the wall are my life's work. Later, make sure to dismantle the robot in the middle of the wall. Behind it are the complete manufacturing and maintenance manuals. But you can't just import them straight into the game. You have to learn them yourself. As for that vertical missile launcher over there, it's modular tech I scavenged from another ruin. I lost my drive later on, so it just gathered dust. Now that it's in your hands, I hope it shines again. Anyway, you have 5 minutes to ask me a single question. Nothing related to the third or fourth floors. It's true what they say. When people get old, they get talkative. Even knowing he only had a few minutes left, Ma Fei still spent the first minute rambling with his newly acquainted bro. The clock on the screen was still ticking. Just one question. Yeah, I erased my memories, except for those about my family. But I still have a lot of core information. Ask away. Consider it a reward for your brilliant third answer. With a wave of his hand, a chair flew over for him to sit on. I didn't stand on ceremony either, plopping down on the floor, and immediately asked the thing I'd been wondering since I entered the ruin. Let me ask you this. Why did Yin Country choose to develop technology in a mystical direction? Wouldn't it be better to just go straight down the mystical path? Everyone throwing fireballs, riding the wind, shooting lightning. Wouldn't that be way cooler? The Chinese language is beautiful. A single sentence can carry a completely different meaning just by changing the intonation. I didn't act serious at all, but every word I spoke was a question that pierced straight to the core of the issue. The screen immediately recorded everything I said, converted it to text, then encoded it into binary signals, and sent it into the system. Ma Fei fell silent for 10 seconds. Beads of sweat began to form on his forehead. Suamo, why do you think our Yin Country is going down a mystical path? Am I wrong? I've seen a whole bunch of devices using mystical type abilities to boost their efficiency. Air conditioners that can fight. Giant TVs that can track targets from a kilometer away. Flat screens that can modify skills. A licensed smartphone that can scout 50 kilometers out. All stuff dug out of ruins. It's like opening mystery boxes. Every single one is bizarre. There's even an item that gives live commentary. Compared to mechanical modular tech, this mystical stuff is way more overpowered. Ma Fei didn't argue. Instead, he fired back with an incredibly sharp question. In your mind, what is mystical? Is it the vague internal energy from martial arts novels? Is it forbidden Western magic? Or is it gods and demons from traditional Eastern folklore? Suamo, don't forget what true science is. Isn't science just? His voice was sharp as a knife. Not flowery like Zhong Qingshu's way of speaking, but direct. Exactly how men talk to each other. I instinctively opened my mouth to answer. But the moment I opened my mouth, I froze. A thought that sounded absurd, yet terrifyingly logical, flooded my mind like a burst dam. In modern society, science and technology are often lumped together as one. But in reality, they are two different things. Science is about explaining phenomena, finding the laws of operation, and then building theories. Technology is the application of those laws to solve practical problems. Ma Fei asked again, why do you think internal energy or magic is right or wrong? It's just us. You can throw a fireball. Doesn't that mean you found the theory and then turned it into a repeatable technique? How is that process any different from taking off the safety, racking the slide, and pulling the trigger to fire a bullet? Seeing I was still a bit dazed, Ma Fei jumped up, waving his hands while adjusting the screen. The surrounding images instantly changed. You think those abilities are mystical only because you haven't figured out their underlying principles yet. Just like how you think gods are terrifying, only because you don't have enough samples to analyze them. Humanity's strength doesn't lie in whether we have magic or not. It lies in the fact that our path of science is a broad, righteous road. Molecules splitting molecules. Atoms attracting atoms. Particle collisions. In your eyes, it's normal. But to the alien tribes? What then? The scene on the screen shifted. I once again saw Liangfang Town erecting the Heavenly Palace shield for the first time. I saw the alien tribes outside staring in stunned disbelief as the barrier activated. From firearms and artillery to long-range ballistic missiles. The moment humanity opened fire, the alien tribes trembled like mice meeting a cat. To them, humanity was the mystical system. I narrowed my eyes. Wait a minute. I get it now. The clock showed less than 3 minutes left, but in my mind, it was like a brilliant light had flared to life. But Ma Fei wasn't done. Do you know how many alien tribesmen I've killed? 340,000. Did you hear me? 340,000 lives. And do you know what happened when I caught those bastards and asked them how they used their magic? Do you know what they answered? I don't know. Right. Exactly. Isn't it hilarious? The so-called mysteries, the so-called magic, they're just a facade built by the upper echelons of the foreign races. They created this mystical ideology to hide the true secret of power, all to maintain their ruling class. Ma Fei sneered, then dropped a bombshell with a very modern tone. For example, the world is no longer ruled by physics, chemistry, or firearms. It's ruled by magic. The air is filled with mana. People are divided into ranks: apprentice, mage, archmage, mage god. Then there are fighters, battle emperors, battle venerables. Sumo, that is not called power. That is called a leash. The Heavenly Palace's shield trembled slightly again. It wasn't as violent as before, but it was enough to show that Ma Fei's words were absolute heresy to the rulers. Ma Fei waved his hand to suppress it, then continued, his voice growing increasingly harsh. You live your whole life not to seek the truth, but merely to climb the social ladder. Even if you become a mage god, a magic emperor, or a divine lord, you're still just sitting at the top of an exploitative pyramid. Why are people so obsessed with the mystical? Because it's simple. Everyone wants to rank up. From the very bottom of society, who wouldn't want to climb higher? To live better, make more money, get hotter girls. How many actually care about the truth? The ones who built that system understand human psychology perfectly, which is why they created these tiers. They trap people in a maze, constantly racing, never having the free time to ask why this system even exists. Even if you have a planet-destroying cannon or an apocalyptic forbidden spell, if you don't understand the principles behind them, you're just a toddler pressing a button. Every word struck like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. I stood frozen. It felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water straight over my heart. The mystical system mesmerizes people not because of the power itself, but because it promises an elevation in class. In the modern world, everyone gets an education and access to information, yet the rich still rig the game to keep everyone else at the bottom. And in a world where power belongs to the individual, life becomes even more brutal. If you don't start from the truth and only chase after leveling up, you're ultimately just digging your own grave. Unlike the foreign races, we humans have already paved our own way up. Relying on thousands of years of wisdom and a solid foundation of science, we can absolutely decode any kind of mystery. Nothing is truly mystical. As long as it exists, there are bound to be laws governing it. Yin country didn't go down the wrong path. It's just, we walked too slowly. Or maybe, haha, let's save this conversation for when you reach the 3rd floor. Ma Fei burst out laughing, giving me that, I know what you're thinking, but there's nothing you can do about it look. It was teasing yet affectionate. I chuckled in response, stood up, and waved him off. Get out of here. You're the winner today. These things aren't what you need to worry about right now. Honestly, my main body has probably been asleep for a long time. Otherwise, I'd definitely drag you out for a few drinks in the middle of the apocalypse, just to see clearly how cruel this world really is. In his final moment, Ma Fei stared silently at the world outside the screen, then vanished. For a consciousness trapped in a hard drive, the concept of time had long since blurred. But getting to talk and bicker a bit with a living person from the outside, like me, was probably his only rare joy in 1,000 years. Drinks, huh? Who knows? Maybe one day we really will sit down for a few rounds. I reached out and gently brushed the screen as it retracted into the wall. I paused for a beat, then let out a soft chuckle. Mafe, oh Mafe, you sure talk a good game. But really, who can truly escape the desire to climb to a higher class? Leaving behind a seed of your memories, then finding a way to break through the hierarchy. Playing both sides, aren't you, old man? I said, glancing over at the camera in the corner of the room. Seeing it twitch slightly at my teasing, I burst into laughter and stood up. If consciousness can be stored, then in the future, simply extracting that data and implanting it into a suitable body to achieve technological immortality isn't exactly impossible. And that day is definitely Ma Fei's final trump card. This sly old fox, optimizing his successor through a test, boosting their power with the second-floor armory, and using the secrets of the third and fourth floors to bait them. If he wasn't limited by energy, he wouldn't even need to wait for me. Eventually, someone else would come along and pull him out of that hard drive to be reborn. I was so caught up talking about mysteries that I forgot to ask about the sudden surge in power every time I enter a ruin. Damn it. Facing a monster like Ma Fei who survived 10 years in the apocalypse, while I have less than 2 months of experience, hundreds of questions naturally popped into my head. But this old man slipped away faster than a rat, leaving me no chance to ask for details. No way. I need to figure out how to get to the third floor as soon as possible. Next time we meet, I'm definitely interrogating him to the bitter end. I pulled the iron pickaxe from my inventory and swung a heavy critical strike at the newly appeared silver door. The result was exactly as expected. The door was as solid as a fortress wall. With that same amount of force, I could have chipped off a huge chunk of concrete. But hitting this door? It didn't even leave a scratch. All the kinetic energy was completely absorbed the moment it made impact. Bringing explosives would be the same. Breaking it with brute force is practically impossible. Looks like the only way to reach the third floor is to wait for my technology to advance another step. I waved my hand to stop Mu'er, who was burning with the urge to try breaking it, and then pulled out a bunch of pots and pans from my inventory. Thanks to Dowdu's shameless bootlicking skills, Oreo had temporarily accepted this loyal lackey. Bringing all 3 little guys along, I looped around the old staircase, passed through the ruined first floor, and returned to the sunlit, crimson courtyard. Looking up, I could still see red meteors streaking across the sky, trailing like torches toward the distant horizon. In that picturesque scene, I inexplicably felt a strange sense of safety. It was like finally getting a break after a long, grueling slaughter. There are still 6 hours left before we head back. A little early or late won't make a difference. I decided to sit down in the middle of the courtyard and cook. The fire flared up and the hot oil sizzled. Minced cabbage and carrots stir-fried together to make a savory topping, then poured into the pot of handmade noodles I had prepared earlier. My hands moved as smoothly as a hotel chef's, leaving Dowdu, that misty Tibetan mastiff, staring in absolute daze. Doing something 100 times without success is called diligence. But bootlicking 100 times? The world is yours. That was my survival motto. And under Dowdu's infatuated gaze, bowls of piping hot, steaming noodles were served one after another. Good Lord, this is freaking delicious. Even though he was just a translucent entity made of energy, the moment he ate real noodles, Dowdu let out a colorful, culturally rich exclamation, making Mu'er laugh so hard he almost lost his teeth. Honestly speaking, in this chaotic world, someone who can turn a ruin exploration into a vacation like me is probably incredibly rare. As for everyone else, some are running around frantically gathering supplies to cross the sea. Others are packing up their homes, hoarding items, hands trembling in fear of death. With the apocalypse breathing down their necks, who has the free time to take a vacation? After finishing the meal, I handed Mu'er a bucket of purified water to wash the pots, then headed back to the 4-story building. This time, I followed the path I had already cleared, returning to the room with that desolate sci-fi vibe. Looking around, drawers unopened, walls unbreached, my eyes lit up like a kid seeing Christmas presents. After everything that happened, It was finally time to reap the rewards. Putting all of Yin country's political schemes aside, the physical loot from this trip alone was enough to make anyone cry tears of jealousy. If I can mount this on my ship and add a few missiles, it'll basically be a mobile fortress. I patted the missile launcher taking up the center of the room, then let out a hearty laugh like I just hit the jackpot. Before, I was worried it would take 400 days to dismantle and take it away. But now, it's plug and play. I pulled out the heavy-duty collection net and threw it over the main body of the launcher. Boom. Items stored in inventory. Ownership transferred cleanly. After that, I turned on all the lights in the room and walked briskly toward a small corner where two old, dust-covered computers sat. Unlike the high-end collapsible models, these two machines are clearly Ma Fei's cast-offs. Looking at the thick layer of dust, I can only sigh. He probably bought them, used them for a few days, and then tossed them aside. Here, they look like scrap metal nobody would touch. But if I take them outside, I scoffed. People would definitely bash each other's heads in fighting over them. I grabbed a cloth and carefully dusted them off. Then I opened the cases and removed each component, cleaning them so thoroughly that not a single RAM slot, power supply, or cooling fin was missed. When I reassembled them and tested the power using the second floor supply, both booted up perfectly. Only then did I safely store them in my inventory. Computers, huh? They might be fragile, but they sure are durable. Booting up after over a decade, that's more than enough. I clapped my hands. I'm taking it all. I just need to find one more, and who knows, I might be able to build that super tier item from the epic blueprint I got last time. That number 01 computer I bought during my second ruin run has always been on my mind. Now I have two. I'm just missing the last one. No matter what, I have to find it. After clearing out the two big items, I walked over to the robot wall on the second floor. I stepped to the center, took down the central robot, and rummaged around for a bit. Finally, I found the manufacturing and maintenance manual Ma Fei had mentioned. The manual wasn't thick, just over 100 pages. The paper was rough, wrapped in a flexible plastic film to prevent moisture and mold. I flipped to the first page, a general introduction. The second page, a detailed table of contents. Just glancing at it made me sigh. Forget it, my skill level isn't high enough to understand this yet. Not surprising, though. Surviving for over a decade in the apocalypse, serving as a mayor, and catching the attention of Yin country's higher-ups, Ma Fei was never a simple man. In this manual, I saw the technological vision of the future. 60 detailed blueprints, from basic mechanical transmissions to artificial neural connections, from foundational AI to ultra-complex logic systems. Ma Fei had wanted to simulate a group of mini-workers and warriors with independent thought, capable of fighting and self-maintenance. The project was left unfinished due to technological limits, but what remained was, in every sense, genuine black tech. I did some quick math. If I wanted to mount 18 guns on the big ship, I'd need 18 robots to operate them. Add a maintenance crew of 6 times 2, and I'd need to bring at least 30 of them. There were 72 robots in total. I weighed my options and decided to take 36. 30 for work, 6 as backups in case of malfunctions. After dealing with the big stuff, it was time to scavenge. I was as skilled as a pro digging through a clearance warehouse. Circuit boards, a microwave, a power tool set, a handheld electric saw, packages, for power strips, 2 USB chargers. Oh, even some glow-in-the-dark paint used for temple gates. Top-tier stuff. 2 bags of cotton gloves, a fishing gear set, half a bag of some unknown seeds. The second floor wasn't large, but Ma Fei had designed it like a maze. There were an annoying amount of storage compartments. Opening each cabinet felt like opening a surprise box. When I opened the drawer closest to the chair, I froze. Oh my god, Ma Fei really knew how to enjoy life. He even had an electric shaver. I cradled it like I'd just found a priceless treasure. Sorry, buddy, but I'm confiscating this in the name of justice. In the current world, this little machine is worth more than gold. Especially for someone with mild OCD like me, it's an absolute godsend. A true salvation. I poured some mineral water over the blades, rinsed it clean, and plugged it in to charge. While waiting, I grabbed a basin of clean water and washed my face right there. It's only been a month, but my beard is growing wild. Every night when I lie down and touch it, it's itchy and uncomfortable. Now that I have an electric shaver, It'd be a crime against humanity not to use it. I applied some facial cleanser foam and pressed the button. BZZZT. The smooth hum was music to my ears. The blades were incredibly sharp. I don't know what kind of tech was in it, but even without shaving gel, it glided as smoothly as a cloud. Every pass sent a shiver of electricity down my spine. It felt indescribably good. Absolute perfection. I shaved until my chin was completely smooth, even a little red. Then I applied a healing suspension from the mountain and sea scroll card, and the redness vanished in the blink of an eye. Damn, that felt amazing. In high spirits, I packed up much faster. Half an hour later, all the items I needed to take were neatly packed in the mesh bag. I called the two little guys over. There were still 5 hours left before this ruin run ended, but whatever, no need to wait. Let's rest up a bit and take all these treasures home. To restore the energy of Ma Fei's core, I needed 10,000 disaster points. I checked my panel. I had exactly 9,012 points left. I tried depositing 500 points first. The energy bar increased by about 4 to 6%. The collapse countdown jumped from 5 hours to 36 days. Even if I maxed out the energy bar, it would only last a maximum of 2 years. Ma Fei must have left a lot of energy behind, but unfortunately, it's all drained now. I did the math, gritted my teeth, and dumped in another 4,500 points. The stabilization time increased to exactly 365 days. 1 year. More than enough. Next time I come back, I definitely have to fully bind this place. Even though it stung a bit, thinking about how this was a level 17 base core made it totally worth it. After checking the items on the second floor, I noticed that the dog, Dowdu, wasn't selected to leave. Dowdu, until the official binding is complete, you can't leave. Stay here and guard the house, okay? Dowdu was a bit goofy, but incredibly loyal. Hearing this, he just nodded repeatedly and curled up in a corner to sleep. I took a deep breath. Ready? Let's go home. I signaled Muir and Oreo to sit next to me and pressed the manual exit button. A beam of light descended like a meteor, piercing through the heavenly palace barrier and enveloping the three of us along with the mesh bag of loot. In the blink of an eye, under Dowdu's expectant gaze, 1 man, 2 pets, and a pile of spoils vanished as if we had never existed. I disappeared from the ruin. Log. You have spent a total of 18 hours, 52 minutes, and 44 seconds in the core area of Liangfang Town. An additional 1.3 days have been added to process the time cost. Log. You need to pay an additional 3.9 days to maintain the energy for the ruins operation. Log. A total of 25.2 days have been consumed, equivalent to 604 hours. Log. The system detects that you possess sufficient time currency, 104 days. Do you wish to pay? Just like last time, after choosing to leave the ruin, I returned to that bizarre space. In that void, Muir and Oreo, who had just been bouncing around, were now lying completely still as if they'd fainted. This time, there was no celebratory sound for completing the ruin. Instead, the game panel emitted a cold, mechanical voice, repeatedly asking if I wanted to pay. I didn't expect this trip to cost over 20 days. If I didn't have the currency, the ocean disaster would have probably hit the moment I stepped out. Without time currency, entering a ruin is a massive gamble. Earlier, I had even discussed with Li Xiufeng about using the time flow difference to dodge disasters. Thinking back on it now, that was pure wishful thinking. I chose to pay. I pulled out a 30-day coin and flicked it lightly into the air. The moment it left my hand, the coin turned into a streak of light and was sucked into an invisible rift. A few seconds later, the rift opened and spat out 4 one-day coins. Log. Detected that player Su Mo has paid 1 30-day coin. Log. Your current balance is 0.8 days. It has been automatically bound to the control panel and can be used next time. Log. We wish you a happy gaming experience. Do you wish to return? It felt exactly like getting change at a supermarket and having it deposited into an e-wallet. Seeing the 0.8 days displayed in the bottom right corner of the panel, I shifted my thoughts and chose to return. A brilliant pillar of light descended once again, enveloping the entire void. Within that pillar of light, when I opened my eyes, I was already standing inside the shelter. Truly miraculous. This is the power of paying to win. Muir and Oreo were still sprawled out on the floor, but the pile of loot I brought back in the mesh bag had spilled out to the side. From the 4x4 vertical launch module and over 30 robots to piles of components, it almost filled the entire storage room. Compared to previous runs, this was an absolute massive haul. Perfect. I won't have to go back to install them. So convenient. While the two little guys were still out cold, I opened the stone door and headed down to the lower floor. When I left the wasteland, it was around 7 a.m. Adding the time it took for the ruin to form, it should be 8 a.m. at most. Yet right now, the clock on the third floor read exactly 9:40 a.m. In other words, only about 2 hours had passed in the real world. So, every time I enter a ruin, no matter how long I stay, a minimum of 2 hours of real time is deducted. I nodded, memorizing this new rule, and went back up to the first floor to organize the gear. Except for the overly bulky missile launcher, everything else was moved down to the third floor for storage. Wealth shouldn't be flaunted. Even though the people at the Hope Shelter weren't inherently evil, it was always good practice to keep my guard up. I cleaned up until 10 a.m. By the time I finished sorting everything, the two little guys finally woke up. The side effects of time travel were pretty intense. Both of them still had numb limbs and were lying flat, unable to stand. I pulled the winch, slowly raising the main door. The fresh morning air of the wasteland rushed in. I'm back. This place is still the most familiar. After digging around underground for nearly 10 hours, seeing the blue sky and white clouds made my body feel incredibly light. Compared to the suffocating atmosphere of Liangfang town, the crisp air of this wasteland, disasters aside, was practically paradise. Stepping outside, strangely enough, I didn't see a single guard. But when I looked off into the distance toward the shipyard, my smile instantly vanished. Just as I thought. Feed them enough, and sooner or later they'll cause trouble. They know damn well this is my territory, yet they still dared to trespass. Who gave you the guts? I pulled the alloy door halfway down, told Muir to stay inside, and sprinted down to the third floor to turn on the old TV I hadn't used in ages. As my power and reputation grew, I rarely used this TV that could only broadcast within a 1-kilometer radius. But today, I truly didn't expect this. The ones looking for trouble weren't alien tribes. They were humans. Bzzzt, crackle, hiss. The familiar sound of static filled the room. I adjusted the controls continuously until the image gradually appeared. Zooming out as far as possible, I finally got a clear view of the shipyard. Over 100 people from Hope Village stood on one side, weapons gripped tightly in their hands. Facing them in a tense standoff were about 200 others. Next to them was a modified medium-duty truck, boldly painted with a No. 2 logo. Trailing behind it were dozens of mini-sleds, clearly used to close in on my base faster. Oh ho, if it isn't an old acquaintance. Daring to come looking for trouble again? I've said it before, the wasteland is vast, but there aren't many fools bold enough to jump around like this. I zoomed the lens in. When I clearly saw the face of the enemy leader, a murderous glint flashed in my eyes. It was none other than the bearded guy who had ranked first during the initial broadcast, the leader of the Rust Shelter. The first time, I pushed him down to second place. The second time, he fell out of the top rankings entirely. I thought he'd faded into the sea of people. Yet here he is, leading an army right to my doorstep. Seeing their burly physiques, I couldn't help but admire the courage of the Hope Village folks. The Rust Shelter had strict recruitment standards. Men had to be at least 1.75 meters tall, and women no shorter than 1.68 meters. As a result, they were all tall, strong, and packed serious combat power. Compared to the villagers of Hope, who, despite having had a few full meals recently, were still pale and malnourished. Most of them were women, too. In a straight fight, they were definitely at a disadvantage. Good thing I gave Chi-Chin a gun before I left. Otherwise, by the time I got back, this base might have turned into a living hell. The fact that they could hold their ground despite such a glaring power gap was all thanks to the 3 frontline fire points. Chi-Chin held one rifle, Wu Feiguang held another. And there was a hidden sniper, Zhong Qingshu. Meanwhile, the Rust camp was poorer. They only had 2 guns. It seems that while I got an excavator from my first supply drop, they got a truck. A bit unluckier than me, but still daring to mess with me. Truly tired of living. The TV couldn't transmit audio. Watching the 2 sides flap their gums without hearing a word, I didn't bother taking off my armor. I ran straight to the safe room to check my ammo. Conflicts between humans were bound to happen sooner or later. I just didn't expect it to happen this fast. If Yin Country's path of collective ascension had failed, then I no longer needed anyone's reverence. What I need is fear. After this trip to the ruin, my mindset had completely changed. I racked the bolt, flipped off the safety, tossed an assault rifle to Muir, and slipped through the half-open iron door. The little ones followed closely as we sprinted along the perimeter path. From a distance, the sound of arguing echoed. "You Chinese." This treasure was clearly discovered by both sides. "Why are you trying to hog it all now? Shut your damn dog mouth. This belongs to our Sumo. It's inside Hope territory. What makes you think it's your treasure? Just wait until Sumo gets back. He'll put you down like a rabid dog." The bearded guy barely opened his mouth to argue before Chun Shun unleashed a torrent of curses, not giving him an inch. We had 3 fire points. They had 2. Given Zhong Qingshu's decisive nature, if there hadn't been an obstacle, she would have sniped their 2 gunmen long ago. But the problem was the Chinese compatriots caught in the middle. Within the Rust Camp's formation, there were about 12 or 13 Chinese people being held hostage. Compared to the hulking Westerners, they were emaciated and haggard, with knives pressed against their backs. 5 minutes. If you don't step aside and let us explore, we'll gift you a dead Chinese body. Despite Qinshin's curses, the bearded guy didn't get angry. He sneered and gave a signal. Someone dragged a hostage to the front. "You son of a bitch. If you dare touch them, when Sumo returns, he'll definitely take your life." The dragged hostage collapsed to their knees from a brutal kick. The managers and villagers saw red with fury, wishing they could charge in and slaughter them all on the spot. These people had only been transmigrated for a month. Though they had tasted enough hardship under the protection of me and the former prison guards, they had never witnessed human cruelty to this extent. Even Kintu, despite siding with the alien tribes, had never been this ruthless to his own kind. But today, seeing this inhumane depravity with their own eyes, no one could bear it anymore. "Sumo, you're relying on that one guy? What? Does he carry a Dongfeng missile with him? Wake up. He's just a lucky bastard. You Chinese are best at deifying people. Ridiculous." The bearded guy was still laughing uproariously when, bang, a bullet tore through the wind, piercing straight through the neck of the Westerner who had just kicked the hostage. Blood sprayed like a crimson flower blooming in midair. "Who's there?" The bearded guy shrieked in panic, immediately ducking behind the crowd to hide. But what awaited him was a hail of bullets I unleashed straight into the Rust formation. No warnings. No reasoning. The moment they stepped into my territory, their names were already on the Grim Reaper's list. Fear spread rapidly. The panic triggered a full-blown rout. The formation crumbled in an instant. Just moments ago, they were aggressively declaring that if anyone made a move, they'd kill a hostage as a warning. And now, after I gunned down the 2 most aggressive thugs with a few shots, the blondes completely panicked. They understood now. Even if they slaughtered all the hostages, death was still their only outcome when facing me. There was only one option left. Run toward the truck. Run for cover. Just pray to survive. As their formation fell into chaos, the Hope villagers snapped out of their daze and erupted in cheers. "Sumo is back. Charge. Kill these dogs." Pushed to the brink, the pent-up rage exploded like a volcano. The entire village, men, women, even some of the older kids, refused to stand still. They surged forward like a tsunami, beating the hulking Westerners to a pulp before they could even react. Bang! Bang! Seizing the moment, Zhong Qingshu pulled the trigger from her hiding spot. Too cold, steel-like shots claimed the lives of the enemy's 2 gunmen. In this wasteland, aside from real mercenaries, very few dared to fight to the death. So when they started to flee, the truck that had just revved its engine to escape had its windshield shattered by a few of Muir's bullets, making the driver cower in fear, not daring to move an inch. No one shouted slogans. They were all modern people. Everyone valued their lives. No one was crazy enough to die for cheap pride. Before I could even fire another shot, the entire situation was under control. A dozen of the most aggressive thugs were down. The rest had their rationality shredded by fear, running around like headless chickens. Everyone on your knees. Hands behind your heads. Anyone moves, I shoot. You, the driver, Get out of the truck. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself. The rest of you. Turn around. Or you die? Like harvesting wheat, the moment the first person knelt, the rest followed suit. The driver trudged out and slumped to the ground. The ones who had tried to run hastily turned back, lay down, and clasped their hands behind their necks like students caught breaking the rules. Compared to the Chinese, who feared guns due to lack of exposure, these Westerners, who lived in a culture of gun violence, understood better than anyone just how fragile the human body was in front of a barrel. I didn't rush out. Only when I was certain the villagers had completely controlled the situation did I slowly climb down from the scaffolding of the shipyard. The moment I moved, all eyes instantly locked onto me. When they confirmed that the person stepping down was me, Hope Village went wild. Everyone wanted to drag the enemies before me to claim credit. This was their first battle. The first time, from young to old, they had all stood up to fight together. And they had won an absolute victory. From this moment on, in their hearts, I wasn't just a leader. I had become a living legend. Under the sunlight, seeing everyone looking in the same direction, the bearded guy lying face down struggled to turn his head to look. That moment was something he would probably never forget. A man clad in silver-gray armor over pitch-black clothing, his face concealed by a black mask, looking exactly like an assassin straight out of a Hollywood movie. In my hands was a strange-looking assault rifle that had never appeared in this world before. From the scaffolding, every step I took was incredibly precise. Then, when I was about 4 or 5 meters from the ground, I jumped, landing as silently as a ghost. It's Suemo. Is it really him? Uffed. You dare call him by his name? Call him God Su, you dog. Seeing the bearded guy muttering and stealing glances at me, a villager immediately kicked him hard in the ribs, spitting on him for good measure. The title God Su was no longer just flattery. It was a title born of absolute faith. As long as they were Chinese, as long as they respected me, we were brothers. Step by step, I approached, slow but steady. When I took off my mask, my eyes were ice cold, sweeping over every member of the Rust camp. Without saying a word, the killing intent alone was enough to make them tremble. Brother Suemo, you're back. Chen Shun ran over, his voice full of relief and joy. While standing guard, they had already prepared themselves to fight to the death. Knowing that my trip to the ruin might take half a day or more, they had all agreed. Even if they died, they had to hold this place. Unexpectedly, the Rust camp arrived right after I left. To prevent them from storming the ruin, Chen Shun immediately mobilized the entire village, turning farmers into warriors to set up a defense line right at the shipyard. But when the ruin's light vanished, the Rust people assumed this place was a treasure left behind by the Aurora. Despite the villagers' explanations, greed blinded their reason. They firmly believed I was no longer here. If they slaughtered the Hope villagers, when I returned alone, I wouldn't be able to do a thing. From there, negotiations turned into arguments, then standoffs, and finally bloodshed. Fortunately, the gunshot of justice rang out just in time. You did well. But don't be so reckless next time. Wealth can be rebuilt if lost, but once a life is gone, it never comes back. Listening to Chen Shin's full report, I felt both moved and incredibly lucky. Holding the shipyard this time was truly a miracle. Using Chinese people to threaten us? That tired old trick has been played for years on Earth. Who would have thought you'd still be using it all the way out here in the wasteland? I glanced at a few Chinese people in the Rust formation who were keeping their heads down, not daring to look up. I patted Chen Shin's shoulder, my voice dropping low. Don't let those Chinese off the hook either. Arrest them all. Interrogate them thoroughly before we decide anything. I want Hope Village to only take in clean people. But anyone who betrayed their compatriots, anyone with the blood of their own people on their hands, kill them without mercy. The first time we met, Rust was still up in the mountains. And now? Who knows what they've been through, but they've turned into bloodthirsty scavengers roaming the wasteland. Looking at the fresh blood on their clothes and the messy pile of goods in their truck, I understood immediately. In just 1 month, this group had discarded all their humanity, becoming beasts that hunted their own kind. If they were allowed to reach the new continent, they would definitely become a cancer to all of humanity. Before I even finished speaking, Chen Shin took action. He grabbed ropes woven from vines and signaled to tie them up one by one. There were too many prisoners, so it took quite a while to process them. I kicked a few stubborn ones to knock some sense into them, then turned and walked straight toward the truck. A truck rewarded for ranking in the top 2,000 was impressive, but compared to the excavator from last time, it was definitely lacking. In an era where everyone has personal storage space, a truck is nothing but a burden. Good thing those guys thought of towing sleds, otherwise this thing would have been scrap metal long ago. I observed as I walked, but before I reached it, I saw Zhong Qingshu sprinting toward me, her face tense. What's the rush? I frowned. Zhong Qingshu was usually as cold as ice. For her to be this panicked, something huge must have happened. Suemo, this time, it might be a real catastrophe. She glanced around, then gave me a pointed look. I understood immediately, and we quickly found a secluded spot. The longer I lived in the wasteland, the more secrets I uncovered. Never mind the bizarre gods. Just the fact that many groups had been thrown in here before mine was enough to keep me on high alert. Looking at Zhong Qingshu's expression, I could already guess a few things. We followed a small path, walking nearly 300 meters to an empty mound. Only then did she catch her breath and speak clearly. Suemo, the situation is critical. All the alien tribes in the wasteland have gone rabid. They used to hold back, but now they've completely lost it. They've started hunting humans relentlessly. She paused for a beat, then said something that sent a chill down my spine. More importantly, they're forming an alliance. The words struck like a bolt of lightning. I had a premonition after that lioness led her pack to attack Hope Village, but I didn't expect this day to come so fast. Over the past month, aside from my exceptional luck, most shelters could only hold out against small, isolated groups of alien tribes. But if they banded together, the only outcome would be mutual destruction. Is this happening across the entire wasteland, or just in certain areas? I asked, because Zhong Qingshu was always the fastest to gather intel. Sure enough, she swallowed hard and emphasized every word. Everywhere. Starting exactly at 6 a.m. today, all the alien tribes, as if pre-coordinated, launched simultaneous attacks. Humanity only has 18 days left to hold out before the ocean arrives. Surviving until then is the only way to clear this stage. The ocean disaster, originally the bane of the wasteland, has now become humanity's only hope for survival. This game, without a doubt, is exactly what the mastermind behind the scenes wants to see. A goo-poison world, forcing humanity to slaughter each other. No, hand those prisoners over to your team. I need to personally interrogate that lioness. I have to find out exactly what they're planning. Tie up whoever needs to be tied up. And anyone who doesn't deserve to live. I made a throat-slitting gesture. Zhong Qingshu immediately nodded. Without another word, I sprinted straight toward the Iron Rock Mountains. Compared to the generation of Ma Fei and Ma Gu, thanks to my influence, more and more people from Earth had survived until now. But because of that, the butterfly effect they created was enough to send shivers down my spine. According to the rules of slaughter, every time a human falls, an alien rises. If I don't find a way to deal with this, by the time I set foot on the new continent, I'll truly become a lone wolf. In the wasteland, I only have one goal: survive. Survive until the day I set foot on the new continent. The seemingly trivial events of today are actually a microcosm of humanity's current situation. For this ocean disaster, we don't just have to build ships and stockpile supplies. We also have to guard against alien attacks at any moment, day or night. For the weak in the wasteland, this has already exceeded their breaking point. All of this, I had never anticipated. Damn it, I wonder how the tundra shelter is doing. If they get ambushed by alien tribes, their firepower. While running and reassessing the situation, thinking of my sister made me incredibly anxious. Fortunately, when I opened the status panel to check, the green dot next to Su Chan's name was still lit. No requests for backup. The situation is stable for now. I need to figure out a way to boost their strength as soon as possible. With that abundance of supplies, the alien tribes will definitely have their eyes on them. First things first, I need to get intel on the alien tribes. I have to know what they're plotting. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. The area around the shelter has already been cleared of alien tribes once. But with the precedent set by the Rust Camp, I can't rule out the possibility that while we sleep, some lion man might send a signal, calling in reinforcements for an ambush. This ticking time bomb has to be defused immediately. Screw it. If she refuses to cooperate, I'll just use some of the old interrogation tricks our ancestors left behind. Even using drugs isn't out of the question. Decision made. I clenched my fists and quickly set up a few little tricks. The entire Hope Village was mobilized. Following the mountain path, we arrived at the prisoner holding area. Only 2 militiamen were left standing guard. All right, you two, go stand guard outside. I'll take it from here. The 2 young guards ran out, looking relieved. I glanced at the lioness, who was still stubbornly holding her head high in defiance. As the cave door closed, my eyes turned ice cold. I took 2 steps forward. 3 slaps rang out like firecrackers, echoing throughout the stone cave. Under the dim light, one side of her face was already swollen, her initial arrogance completely shattered. 2 days of Chun Shun's soft interrogation made her think I'd speak nicely. But with these 3 earth-shattering slaps, she froze. Refusing to talk, huh? Let me show you what true silence is. Seeing her stubbornly lower her head, I didn't hold back. I grabbed her by the hair, yanked her up, and delivered 3 more crisp slaps. After entering and exiting the ruins 3 times, my strength far exceeded that of an ordinary person, no different from a bodybuilder. These slaps, packed with fury and pressure, were enough to make the lioness realize she was truly a prisoner. We Chinese have a saying, leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. Since you don't want to talk, I have no reason to keep you around. I drew my gun and flicked off the safety. The other 2 lion men stood frozen in panic. Bang! Thud! The bullet exploded into her thigh. Dark blood poured out in streams. She wailed, the pain making her unable to stand. I fired another round into her other thigh. Think carefully. Do you want to stay loyal to the alien tribes and die for that bullshit faith, or surrender and become a mole for us humans? I'll count to 3. If you can't choose, I'll choose for you. I emphasized every word, leaving no room for retreat. The moment I uttered the word 3, the lioness jolted up, nodding frantically like a woodpecker. Don't try anything stupid. I pulled down my mask, leaned in close to her face, and flashed a bright smile. The same smile I used during the plateau negotiations before attacking the kobold camp. But in her eyes right now, it was the smile of a demon. Devil. You're a devil. Oh, am I a devil? Let's see what you can do. Now that you've picked a side, I'll give you a chance. I holstered my gun, looked at her mangled, bloody wounds, pulled out the mountain and sea scroll card, and gently applied it. Whoosh! A burst of light flared. A few breaths later, her legs were fully healed. Her face, too, returned to normal as if she had never been struck. Now talk. What the hell are you alien tribes plotting? What's your next move? I knocked lightly on the door, signaling the militia to take the other 2 out. I sat down opposite her, my gaze as sharp as a knife. Sue the devil. I'll tell you everything. But you can't let anyone know I leaked it. Otherwise, you might as well kill me right now. Gritting her teeth, her eyes filled with despair. Realizing she had no way out, she let out a long sigh. And that reaction, those words, made a familiar surge of excitement rise within me. Here it comes. The classic, honorable surrender trope of the villain. Relax. As long as you do well, with my help, your Lion Man tribe won't just avoid extinction, you'll grow strong again. You'll become one of the major tribes ruling this wasteland. When that time comes, even the Lion God will hold you in the highest regard. I am Suamo. My friend is a friend to all of humanity. Under my protection, no one will dare touch you. The old stick and carrot trick, it works in any era. Everyone knows it, everyone uses it, and its effectiveness never drops. Besides, for a guy like me who spent years grinding in an office, hearing the boss promise, work hard now, get a raise and promotion later, every day, this trick was practically in my blood. And just as I guessed, after getting my guarantee, the lioness didn't demand any more conditions. Instead, she did something that made me freeze. What the hell? Before my eyes, the darkness in the cave suddenly flashed gold. A few seconds later, a system interface panel appeared in front of me. This thing was all too familiar, just a different color. The human panel was usually blue or green, but the alien panel was a glaring, flashing golden orange. There, I've removed all the security layers. You can use your panel to connect and view it now. The lioness went completely limp, burying her face in the dirt as if accepting her fate. Having linked with Xiong's panel once before, I was very proficient at it this time. Without overthinking, I connected immediately. Damn, that felt good. It was even better than last time, like soaking in a hot spring. Even my soul felt massaged. Log. Detected an alien core requesting to join your protected area. Do you accept? Log. Upon acceptance, you will have 100% full control over the standard core and 70% limited authority over the alien core. Log. Note. Once established, the link cannot be canceled unless the alien host dies. 3 notifications popped up simultaneously. Seeing that I still had 5 empty protection slots, I nodded immediately. 3 slots for my family, and the rest for planting moles in the alien faction. What could be more perfect? The moment I confirmed, the system automatically signed the pact. A shelter core half the size of a person materialized in front of me. At the same time, a small lion head-shaped core flew out of the lioness. The size difference was like heaven and earth. But the moment the familiar tortoise shell casing and energy radiated out. Why do you have the wind of our lion man tribe? And this is the wind of blessing. The lioness practically jumped up as if she'd seen a ghost. Impossible. I'm the only one from the lion man tribe who was teleported here. Her face twisted in utter shock. The aura originating from the source couldn't be faked, couldn't be mistaken. Could it be? I once blessed Sue the devil. What the hell? When she reached out and touched the phantom tortoise shell, the energy stream immediately wrapped around her like a child finding its mother. Her defiant gaze vanished, replaced by a deep, bottomless terror. I told you, follow me, and you'll see even more miraculous things. I patted her shoulder lightly. Seeing her unconcealable, complex expression, I smiled and waved my hand to initiate the protection ritual. In automatic mode, my tortoise shell opened and swallowed the lion-shaped core whole. A few seconds later, the core reappeared. Right in the middle of the lion's forehead, a tiny symbol lit up, my face. A mark proving that the core was now under my protection. At the same time, a tight bond formed between me and the lioness. For me, I held the power of life and death. For her, it felt like she had just lost something incredibly important. But it was too late now. Seeing her slump to the ground in a daze, questioning her entire existence, I just smirked. Switch. Use auxiliary core. Instantly, my green interface panel dissolved, making way for the golden-orange alien interface. Its features were no less robust than the human panel. But the moment I saw the global chat channel, I clicked on it immediately. Just like the human side, it was divided into global and regional channels. With a mere thought, the panel popped up. Messages were scrolling like crazy. Excellent. We finally caught you little brats this time. The world channel was moving at breakneck speed. But just a few seconds later, the system panel realized the one watching wasn't the lioness, but me. The entire content was instantly filtered. The beggars asking for handouts vanished. The ones cursing, "Sue the devil, you're inhuman," also disappeared. The number of aliens capable of manipulating the system wasn't high to begin with, so after the filter, the message speed dropped significantly. Focusing my observation, I gradually grasped some valuable intel. The world channel currently had about 340,000 aliens with speaking privileges. In other words, the total number of alien tribes in the wasteland before the Great Ocean arrived was around 340,000 groups. Of course, that included near-extinct species like this lioness. Proportionally, the number of alien tribes with actual combat power ranged from 20,000 to 50,000 groups. The numbers were a bit glaring, but as I scrolled down and saw the aliens clamoring, I couldn't help but laugh. A few hot messages from the Alien World channel. Bone-corroding, great sun python. Any brothers near the desolate coordinates? I just cornered a group of about 500 humans over here. Observe them, they're all plump. The meat is super tender. My tribe currently has 80 fighters. Hoping some fated brothers can come assist. Dream dancing lone crocodile. Easy pickings, my ass. The other day, Old Ling led his guys to ambush them. Those humans yelled anime bonsai and charged like maniacs. Before reinforcements could even arrive, Old Ling was already sent to meet his ancestors. I suspect there's a hidden master backing them. Be careful. Primordial young red-tipped wolf. You guys are so pathetic. Did Sue the devil scare the guts out of all of you? Anyone with guts has been eating well these past few days. Meanwhile, you cowards keep talking about developing the new continent. Develop my ass. Wait for the ocean dwellers to arrive, and you won't even have bones left to gnaw on. 9 Heavens Thunder Owl. Yeah, what does the sea folk arriving have to do with me? We've decided. Once the humans finish building their ships, we're going to hitch a ride to the new continent. If you want to risk your lives, go ahead, but don't drag us into it. Especially don't mess with Sue the Devil. If you're not careful, even the gods you worship will get vaporized by him. Fate-ending Rhino, screw you guys. We've pulled off 3 jobs already. These humans are living treasure troves. Kill them, and not only do you get meat, but you can also open summoning portals, boost your combat power, and learn new skills. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If you don't take advantage now, when you're starving later, go eat dirt. Reading up to this point, my eyes were spinning. The human side preferred short and concise messages, but these aliens wrote every sentence like an essay. But what really made me laugh were their names. Holy crap, why do these aliens name themselves like characters from a Shinsha novel? I tilted my head, looked at the lioness's nickname next to me, and couldn't help but snort. Purple Jade Steel-Eyed Lion. A badass name fit for a warrior queen, yet her real name was Connie. Gentle, like a European lady. Ah, I see. Clearly, driven by animal instincts, the alien tribes placed immense importance on titles. Everyone tried to give themselves the coolest name possible to boost their aura and gain leverage in negotiations. This trick would be cringeworthy among humans, but for these muscle-brained creatures, it was undeniably effective. And completely contrary to my expectations, in the Alien World channel, I even saw those who wanted to cooperate, those discussing tactics, those acting like comedians, especially the name Sue the Devil, which appeared so frequently that even I was starting to doubt reality. Sue the Devil. Am I really that famous among the aliens? I rubbed my nose and glanced at Connie, who was spacing out in the corner of the cave. I was about to stand up and look around, but right at that moment, the World Channel suddenly froze. Because the alien tribes had fewer members, they were allowed to send 1 message every 30 seconds, stacking up to a maximum of 5. A mechanism designed to prevent spam while keeping the channel active. Yet right now, it was as silent as a graveyard. When I scrolled down to the last 5 messages, my whole body stiffened. Cursed Tiger, enough nonsense. There are 18 days left until humanity retreats. During this time, all alien tribes with fewer than 500 members are forbidden from participating in the ocean hunt. Cursed Bear. All alien tribes not proficient in naval combat must pay the full price to exchange for the naval combat mastery skill. Cursed Tiger. Repeating Sue the Devil's coordinates. Lubon Basin, 11021, 32331. Cursed Tiger. Any group wishing to cross this area must report. The 5 great tribes will coordinate the attack time. Unauthorized action is strictly forbidden. Cursed Tiger. Pass this on. Violators will be exterminated at the new continent. 5 short sentences, heavy as an imperial decree. The moment they were sent, the channel went dead silent. Even the usual comedians shut up, as if they were being choked and didn't dare make a peep. The name Cursed Tiger sounded simple, but in this context, I couldn't help but pay attention. The 5 great tribes. So the aliens had a hierarchy too. My coordinates were exposed. I was a bit surprised, but thinking about it, it made sense. An underground shelter was too easy to spot. Plus, I hadn't completely wiped out the Lion Man tribe earlier, so leaving traces wasn't strange. What really sent a chill down my spine was the ocean hunt plan they mentioned. In the human channel, it displayed height, weight, and even marks. But on the alien side, it only showed names and power indexes. I checked Cursed Tiger's info. Only 9.2. I tried opening Connie's profile. 0.003. I gasped. Holy crap. He's 3,000 times stronger than her. I continued opening the other names. Bone-corroding Great Sun Python, 0.8. Fate-ending Rhino, 1.9. Compared to these guys, 9.2 was an attack from a completely different dimension. I didn't bother asking who this Cursed Tiger guy was. Instead, I looked over at Connie, who was curled up like a little bean. Connie, what do you know about the Cursed Tiger tribe? They seem pretty strong. Hearing that name, Connie first looked terrified. Then her eyes went blank, like a traitor in a Hong Kong movie who knows they're at a dead end. Don't be scared, I consoled her. Cursed Tiger seems strong, but don't worry, he's still a bit weaker than me. Me? I have an index of 29. I bluffed. Connie didn't know the human system, so the moment she heard 29, her eyes lit up as if she'd been injected with adrenaline. The Cursed Tiger tribe is one of the 5 great royal tribes of the land-dwelling aliens. Connie began explaining clearly. They brought 1,000 members when they arrived in this land. Now they've grown to 8,600. 8,600. That number made my hair stand on end. Back on Earth, there were only about 4,000 wild tigers left in the entire world. Siberian tigers, the largest species, only had 600 left. Yet here, there were over 8,600 tigers that knew how to fight. Just imagining them charging at me gave me goosebumps. Even though I was currently the strongest in the wasteland, if I ran into them, I'd only have 2 choices: hide or fight them head-on. In your dreams, to stand against an alien horde like that, I need at least 100 machine guns, hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammo, and a complete defense system. Connie lowered her voice and told me, "That's right. As far as I know, the number of humans who died by their hands is only about 5,000. But their numbers keep increasing endlessly. The secret is that they kill other alien tribes to survive. Their reputation, their status, that royal tribe title, it was all built on slaughter." Her voice grew hoarse, her face reflecting a pain I had never seen before. I understood. When humans mentioned me, they were filled with hope. But Connie, a fellow beast man like the Cursed Tiger, felt nothing but hatred when mentioning him. I even believed that if Cursed Tiger stood right in front of her, and if she had the strength, Connie would lunge forward and tear him apart without hesitation. But then, she shook her head, as if denying such a far-fetched thought. In the animal kingdom, prestige isn't born from hard work, but from killing. All the alien tribes fear them, Connie continued. Even the ocean hunt plan was orchestrated by our 5 great royal tribes. I narrowed my eyes. The ocean hunt plan. In just half a day, I had heard that phrase no less than a few times. Taken literally, it was highly likely a massive alien campaign targeting humans. But the wasteland was so vast. Once the ocean flooded in, how could the aliens gather their forces so quickly and organize a mass attack on humanity? Even humans had to rely on coordinates and terrain to regroup. What could the aliens use to continuously and accurately track human positions for ambushes and interceptions? Just thinking about it, the plot holes were too glaring. Unless the target of the ocean hunt plan wasn't humanity to begin with. The ocean hunt plan, I repeated. Hearing this, Connie froze. Her eyes shifted constantly, from terror to doubt, to looking like she didn't know where to begin. Finally, she stared at me for over 10 seconds. Then she licked the dried blood off her claws, gazing at the sunlight outside the cave. In her eyes, something flickered, something like longing. She took a deep breath, but didn't answer. Instead, she made a request. "Can I go outside? And my staff, can you return it to me? What you want to know, the staff will give you the answer." Days of exhaustion, combined with the dire situation after the Kobold tribe was wiped out, had left Connie nearly drained. If it weren't for the wildly overgrown vegetation providing them with some wild berries, the Lion Man tribe would have starved to death. Every night, Connie asked herself, did the Lion Man tribe still have a future? Without a summoning portal, without guidance from the Lion God, she had to decide everything herself. And every decision was wrong. Even when she lost to the Hope Militia and was taken prisoner, she didn't give up. During the day, she pretended to cooperate with Chen Shun, acting as if she had surrendered, while secretly looking for an escape route. At night, she couldn't sleep, terrified that one day I'd open the door, walk in, and send her to heaven with 2 bullets. For a creature never known for her intellect, it was pure torture. Only today, when Connie decided to pledge her loyalty to me, to humanity, did she truly let go. No more resistance. No more scheming. Just the simple instinct of a small animal finding a safe haven. From now on, I said slowly, as long as you want to live a decent life, I won't let anyone harm you in my territory. We are friends. Her eyes lit up. I nodded without hesitation. Now, with the Protection Authority, if I wanted to, Connie would lose all her abilities in the blink of an eye. There was no need to lock her up. In fact, letting her roam free would reassure the villagers and bolster their confidence in victory. I clapped my hands. The 2 militiamen opened the cave door. Sunlight poured in. Connie stood frozen, as if in a dream. Just a few days ago, her tribe was on the brink of extinction. She had led the last group to fight against humanity. Now, she was the one leading her tribe to surrender. Right or wrong, she didn't know. But looking at me standing there, bathed in brilliant light, as if merging with the sun itself, she nodded firmly and slowly stood up. Her figure looked like a beast finally freed from its cage. "There's no need to lock her up anymore," I said. "She is our friend." I made sure to emphasize the word friend. The two militiamen understood immediately and unlocked her. "Oh right. Tell Chen Shun to bring her staff over here." After giving the order, I cast a glance at the shipyard in the distance, then turned and walked back into the cave. "Let's go. The staff is on its way. It's time to step outside and take a look at this peaceful world. Freedom is something you only truly value once you've lost it. Humans and aliens are the same. Locked in the dark for too long, it's only when that first ray of light touches you. That Connie finally understood. So this is the taste of freedom." She walked behind me, only glancing briefly at her two still-tied tribesmen, but she didn't stop. She quietly followed me up to the mountain peak. The Iron Rock Mountains didn't have many paths. Just walk straight, and you're there. Standing on the peak, with no other mountains or obstacles around, the view stretched out endlessly. I sat down at the edge of the cliff, my legs dangling over the side. "Sit. From now on, this place is your home. Don't be a stranger." My voice was as light as the wind. While waiting for Chen Shun, I opened the interface to continue monitoring the latest news from the alien faction. Warm sun, cool breeze. The atmosphere was strangely peaceful. Connie sat down next to me, swinging her legs just like I was. The wind ruffled her soft fur, creating ripples as smooth as water, but she didn't care. Her gaze was completely captivated by the scene at the foot of the mountain. The massive shipyard came into view, hundreds of meters long, with towering scaffolding. The sunlight reflected a blue hue like the ocean. Looking down from above, the shipyard seemed to be floating on an invisible sea, swaying gently with the wind. To the right, hundreds of laborers were bustling about, moving like a lively colony of ants. No one was idle for even a second. Connie was mesmerized. The view from above made everything look small, yet brimming with power. I remained focused on the system interface, while Connie stared blankly, admiring the world she was about to become a part of. It wasn't until the sound of hurried footsteps echoed that I turned my head. Chen Shun was running over, panting heavily, holding the staff in his hand. He was sweating buckets. Seeing Connie, he paused for a moment, but then immediately understood the situation. "Brother Suemo, I brought the staff." "Is she?" He shot me a questioning look. "From now on, she is our friend," I enunciated clearly. "Tell everyone not to look at her differently anymore." Hearing this, Connie turned her head, catching Chen Shun's gaze right at that moment. Over the past few days, they had talked quite a bit. Through Chen Shun, Connie had come to understand me better. She felt no shame in surrendering, simply giving a gentle nod. Chen Shun stepped closer and lowered his voice to a whisper. "Brother Suemo, the managers at the Rust shelter are truly cold-blooded killers. Just from a preliminary interrogation, the number of people who died by their hands is no less than." He held up one finger. 100? 1,000, I corrected him. "That many?" Chen Shun lowered his head, continuing in a hushed tone. After the second disaster, they started roaming. By the third disaster, they stopped farming altogether, just moving and pillaging. And you know what? The Chinese people in that group, they weren't forced. They surrendered willingly. They became moles, helping those animals attack the shelters of their own compatriots. He spoke very softly, afraid of angering me, but my face was already as cold as ice. Compared to aliens, human traitors are the most terrifying. They understand humans, so when they kill, they are infinitely more ruthless. 1,000 lives. Each of them has at least a dozen bodies on their hands. Compared to wanted criminals on Earth, these guys are literal demons incarnate. "Brother Suemo, please give me full authority to handle this. Those animals absolutely cannot be forgiven. Killing them right away is too easy on them." His voice dripped with murderous intent. I stayed silent for a few seconds, then nodded. Hope Village had just won a major battle. Now, they needed a show of force to solidify their morale. Those traitors didn't deserve an ounce of mercy. As the one in charge, I only needed the right result. The method didn't matter. Receiving my nod, Chun Shin took 2 steps back, stood at attention, then turned and left. As the killing intent surged, I handed over the staff. Here is your staff. Now, what is the ocean hunt plan? You can tell me now, right? Connie took back her staff. Sensing my mood, she didn't beat around the bush. She placed her hand on the head of the staff. A halo of light appeared, about 30 inches wide, radiating a pale golden glow. Even under the glaring sun, the colors were vivid. I had no idea what kind of bizarre technology this was. Suamo, next I will bring you into the conference space. Don't resist. Rest assured, their target is not humanity. Without waiting for me to ask, the moment she touched the screen, the image shifted. A deep voice echoed throughout the space. Greetings, land-dwelling tribes surviving in the wasteland. I am the patriarch of the Cursed Tiger Tribe, Cursed Clark. Having been warned by Connie, I relaxed my consciousness, letting the nerve-tearing sensation wash over me, just like when I crossed the space of the Heavenly Palace mirror. Everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was standing in a massive, pitch-black grand hall. The surrounding details were quite blurry, not as sharp as the Heavenly Palace mirror, but the fact that the aliens could create similar technology still amazed me. Right at the top of the hall, Cursed Tiger Clark sat majestically. I, on the other hand, was in a much lower position, clearly distinguishing master and servant. A screen of light rippled, and Connie's projection appeared beside me. She continued, "This image was sent by the Cursed Tiger Patriarch 6 days ago. To transmit it, the 5 royal tribes sacrificed 2 relics of true gods. To replay it, we have to use a bit of pseudo-divine power." She tapped lightly, and the image resumed. Patriarch Clark's figure became clear. I blurted out involuntarily, "The Cursed Tiger, is that small?" In my imagination, an alien from a royal tribe should be towering and imposing. But this guy looked like a cub. Connie replied, "That's right. Their tribe isn't known for individual physical strength. In a one-on-one fight, they'd even lose to our Lion Man tribe. What makes them terrifying is their curse power. Every strike they land carries a curse. Just a single touch, and the curse clings to you like a chronic wound, slowly draining your life force. The more you're hit, the stronger the curse becomes." Connie's face grew serious, while I stood frozen. Curse power? Draining life force? Transmitted through contact? Good lord, that's no different from a supervirus. An attack where just getting infected causes massive cellular destruction. From its mechanics to its spread, it sounds more and more like a high-level infectious disease. But then, Connie's next words made me instantly serious. But that still isn't what makes them the strongest. Connie spoke slowly, every word hammering into my head. The truly terrifying part is, if you kill a single cursed tiger, no matter where you are, no matter how far away, the curse will track you down, transcending both space and time. It's precisely because of this trait that, among all the tribes, they've been able to expand so rapidly and fearlessly. I listened to Clark rambling in the hall while hearing Connie's explanation. After being in the dark about the alien tribes for so long, I finally understood a bit more. "No one dares to kill the Cursed Tiger tribe," Connie continued. "No matter how strong a tribe is, the moment they see them, they have to kneel and beg for mercy. Brother, even if your power index is rated at 29, surpassing even the strongest royal tribe, if you encounter a cursed tiger, you have to run. Run as fast as you can. Otherwise, even if you kill them, there's only one outcome, certain death." Now that we were in the same boat, Connie hid nothing. She was afraid I'd get hot-headed and rush off to fight the cursed tigers before my seat was even warm. If that happened, her defection would have been for nothing. Transcending space? I chuckled softly. I didn't argue. But while Clark was still talking endlessly, I secretly added an item to my gear list. A full-body hazmat suit. Theory is just theory. No matter how strong a virus is, it still has to follow basic rules. There's no way it can just phase through space into a body whenever it wants. It was absurd beyond belief. Not to mention, Connie didn't know that with the mountain and sea scroll card in my hands, as long as I didn't die instantly, any other injury was just a mosquito bite. The meeting in the grand hall went on for about 10 minutes before Clark stopped beating around the bush and finally got to what I was waiting for, the ocean hunt plan. I immediately sat up straight and listened intently. The ocean is about to rise. The sea god is about to awaken. The The time left for the land tribes to migrate is running out. The sea covers over 80% of the land of salvation. If we don't act in time, the underwater tribes will obtain the key of salvation before us. Therefore, the 5 great royal tribes have agreed upon a plan involving all land-dwelling tribes. The Ocean Hunt Plan. Boom. A virtual golden board fell straight from the sky, slamming onto the table and sending an invisible shockwave rippling through the grand hall. Clark pointed at the golden board and stood up. Though his tiny stature made the scene a bit comical, the words appearing behind him completely drew me in. The Ocean Hunt Plan consists of 3 phases. Phase 1. Luring humanity. We have cultivated many spies among the humans. Relying on them, we will incite humanity to migrate toward the ocean en masse. At the same time, we will dispatch tribes trained for aquatic environments to escort the humans, accelerating the process. 2 key points. Before the ocean forms, alien tribes are not forbidden from hunting humans. On the contrary, the 5 royal tribes encourage it to boost our strength as quickly as possible. Second, once the ocean forms, all attacks on humanity are strictly forbidden. Anyone who violates this will be hunted to death by all 5 royal tribes. Clark looked down, his eyes narrowing with murderous intent. In this plan, humanity is not the main target. Seeing the image pause, Connie raised her staff and tapped lightly. The screen resumed moving. Phase 2, the hunt. Once humanity gathers into a massive collective, their position in the ocean will be extremely easy to detect. Of course, hunting them at that point will be much harder. But, are they really the true target? Clark sneered. A map appeared. In the center of the map was a red dot, glowing as bright as the sun. Surrounding it were countless blue dots, moving like stars. Under Clark's manipulation, the blue dots were drawn together into a single mass. Do you see? Those blue dots are the underwater tribes, our greatest enemies. If we want to find the key of salvation, we must annihilate them. If we let them reach the new continent like the humans, all our chances will be lost. Therefore, humanity is our most valuable pawn. As long as we can lure those greedy sea creatures to attack them, the 5 royal tribes will strike simultaneously, summoning the divine ancestors to bestow power upon us. If we can buy enough time, we have a chance to heavily cripple them, or even wipe them out completely. As for the surviving humans, Clark patted his chest, brimming with confidence. I, Clark of the Cursed Tiger Tribe, promise to distribute them fairly based on contribution. The conquered sea territories will also be freely opened for all land-dwelling tribes to explore. Clark laughed triumphantly. The video ended, leaving a void for me to ponder. I chuckled softly. Not bad. This plan patches up quite a few plot holes. It sounds reasonable, too. I didn't expect there to be such sharp minds among the alien tribes. The moment I saw that humanity wasn't the target, I felt relieved. Clark and the 5 royal tribes really planned this out meticulously. If everything goes according to these 2 phases, humanity will definitely flock to the new continent exactly as they planned. But what they don't know is, humanity's fear stems from a lack of firepower. And when enough humans gather, the combat power they unleash will be what truly makes the alien tribes turn pale. I looked at Connie and smirked. Relax. His plan is nothing to worry about. Follow me. When the time comes, I'll show you that true justice only exists within the range of a cannon. Thinking of the massive stockpile of cotton and the vertical missile launch system sitting in the garage, I patted Connie's shoulder hard and laughed heartily. The image continued, but when it came to Phase 3, Clark deliberately kept it vague. He just threw out a few casual remarks about announcing it later, then went back to his usual rambling. Connie looked up at the screen and guessed softly, Phase 3. If I'm not mistaken, they're definitely planning to make a move on the sea god. I nodded. After completing the first 2 phases, the only remaining targets were the new continent and the sea god. 9 times out of 10, that's it. Those 5 royal tribes definitely won't be satisfied with just targeting the sea god's envoys. Their ultimate goal is very likely the sea god himself. The plan isn't complex, I muttered. But precisely because of that, it's much easier for these muscle-brained aliens to execute. And since there are spies within humanity, the authorities definitely have moles inside the alien tribes too. Both sides are just playing a ruthless game of infernal affairs. I'm guessing the 5 great royal tribes are well aware of that. But this plan really does benefit humanity. Seeing no objections from the authorities in the World Channel, I was even more certain. They were also scheming, planning to use the enemy's momentum to their advantage. Sure enough, every race is cunning. Humanity's higher-ups aren't just useless dead weights sitting around waiting for a protagonist to save the world. I took a deep breath. It won't be long now. The Great War in this wasteland is about to begin. A sudden surge of excitement welled up inside me. Instead of sabotaging their plan to lure humanity into gathering, I actually wanted to accelerate it. From the moment the ocean appears to when the underwater tribes awaken, for days. From when they start hunting to when humanity regroups, at least 7 days. For plus 7 equals 11 days. During those 11 days, according to the land aliens' plan, humanity will be absolutely safe. No one is allowed to touch even a single hair on their heads. And that is exactly what I need. With my speed, it'll only take 7 to 10 days to reach the rendezvous point in the tundra, just in time to pick up my sister, leaving me with no more loose ends. Plus, with a destroyer in my hands, I want to see what in this ocean can possibly stop me. Thinking of this, I even had to mentally praise Clark. Beside me, Connie also breathed a sigh of relief, her face beaming as if she'd found a way to survive. The lion god be my witness. Following Sumo was truly the smartest move of my life. He really is a 29-point powerhouse. The realm of top-tier players does not disappoint. Once I'm on the boss's ship, when the sea tribes arrive, we'll head straight for the new continent. As for the fighting afterward, let them handle it. The Lion Man tribe will flourish again in my hands. Connie the Great. Meanwhile, in the Grand Hall, Clark was still talking endlessly. But down below, Connie and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. One human, one Lion Man. Two people who completely understood each other. Let's survive this. Together. Two hands clasped tightly. The next second, in the middle of the empty Grand Hall, Connie and I's unrestrained laughter rang out loud and clear. After the conference ended, I told Connie, if you remember anything else, or if you need anything, just contact Chin Shun. Go rest for now. For the next 10 days or so before the ocean rises again, you don't need to do anything. Just focus on recovering. Having grasped the alien tribe's entire plan for the next month, I arranged for Connie to take her tribe to rest and recuperate. The pressure in my chest finally eased a bit. Humanity's situation was indeed incredibly critical. But as long as we hold out until the 18th day, the moment the ocean officially rises, we'll have at least 10 peaceful days to prepare. By then, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of people will gather and migrate together, protected by hundreds of government shelters. Who knows? We might even be able to turn the tide. I lowered my head and glanced down at the 100-meter-long shipyard. An image immediately popped into my head. The miserable alien tribes rowing their rickety wooden boats, while I steered a destroyer, cutting through the waves, blasting everything to pieces, an unstoppable force of nature. Farming really is the best. Take one step ahead, and every step after that is faster. Compared to grinding mobs to level up, over-leveling before fighting is the safe way to play. But for now, I need to get the robots operational immediately, build the ship, manufacture ammo. I can't delay for even a minute. Feeling lighthearted, I walked down the sloping path, heading back to the shipyard. It was already 1 p.m. Over the past half day, after seizing all the supplies from the Rust shelter, Hope Village had scored an unprecedented haul. You could tell just by looking at lunch. Over 100 kilos of frozen beef taken from Rust were brought out and stewed with potatoes, then poured over freshly boiled noodles, creating a rich, spicy beef and potato noodle soup. The head chef of Hope Village was a northerner, so the seasoning was bold and packed with flavor. The mouth-watering aroma wafted through the air. I could smell it from a distance, making my stomach rumble nonstop. The Rust guys probably never expected the day would come when the tables were turned on them. Even the big bear, Mooer, ate 3 whole bowls. I couldn't hold back either, sitting down and polishing off 2 full bowls myself. After eating, while the supplies were being inventoried, the afternoon interrogation resumed under the glaring sun. Chun Shun, true to the Shun in his name, which meant interrogate, lived up to his reputation as an expert. Whether it was the lioness or the Rust thugs, he utilized his skills to the fullest. With no laws left, using a method that was half interrogation, Half torture, the questioning went incredibly smoothly. Almost everyone from Rust ended up crying and confessing their crimes. Some had killed dozens. Even their chef had a few bodies on his hands. Under Qin Shin's familiar methods, they trembled as they ratted out their accomplices, hoping to trade the info for their lives. I stood and watched for a while. Seeing that he had it handled and didn't need my interference, I called a quick meeting with the entire intelligence department. The head of Intel was Pei Xiao. He had 3 people under him, each handling a specific sector. For a village of just over 100 people, for Intel officers should be enough. But in reality, it wasn't nearly enough. They had to scout the terrain, patrol, and recon a radius of dozens of kilometers every single day. The workload was simply too massive. In this first meeting I attended, I decided to add 3 more people to the team. Among them, 2 were college students who specialized in pulling all-nighters online, patient, and capable of monitoring the chat panels for long periods. The third was a woman in her 30s with a meticulousness score of 82 in a recent psychological evaluation, making her perfectly suited for synthesizing intel. After announcing the appointments, I quickly assigned their first 3 intelligence tasks. First, gather all information on the frequent speakers in the world channel, especially those calling for humanity to gather at the new continent. Record everything in full. Compile a report for Pei Xiao every 3 days. After verification, pass it to Qin Shin to handle. Second, gather all human gathering points and coordinates after the sea level rises, as detailed as possible. Also, verify the power rankings of the shelters currently spreading online. From there, build an exclusive intelligence database for Hope. Third, collect all publicly shared combat encounters between humans and foreign races on the world channel. Among the 3 directives, the second is mandatory. Do your absolute best on the other 2. It sounds simple, but the actual workload is massive. But after our recent major victory, morale across Hope is soaring. Everyone assigned to the task agreed in unison. We will definitely get it done. I nodded. It's fine if the intel is slow. What matters is accuracy. Don't rush and give me garbage data. Keep up the good work, and you'll be rewarded. I patted the shoulders of the 2 excited students below, then opened the shipyard door, signaling the meeting was over. Everyone arrived quickly and left just as fast. But before they were all out, Zhong Qingshu squeezed right in, casually shutting the door behind her. So how is it? Have you figured out the foreign race's plan? I've been monitoring them all morning, and it feels like they're about to go crazy. We might need to expand our reconnaissance range. If their main army closes in and surrounds us, it'll definitely turn into a brutal battle. The surprise attack by the fallen camp was a clear wake-up call. A 50-kilometer recon radius is enough for normal days. But right now, with both humans and foreign races moving on a massive scale, that distance is just an hour or 2 away on foot. Without strategic depth, we'll get ambushed sooner or later. Zhong Qingshu saw far ahead, and she was right. I motioned for her to sit down. Don't worry. I've already grasped the foreign race's entire plan. Come here, I'll walk you through it step by step. I recounted everything, only omitting the parts related to the AI and the chat space, focusing instead on describing the foreign race's chat panel and their 3-phase plan. As she listened, Zhong Qingshu's expression shifted constantly. Worry, curiosity, realization, and then deep thought. The room fell silent. I didn't rush her. 4 or 5 minutes later, she finally looked up. So the situation is this messed up? The land races are scheming against the deep sea races, and the human higher-ups are planning to flip the table and go all in. And the deep sea races sound like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Why is that tiger guy so sure the deep sea ones won't react? Can't they just capture a few land dwellers to extract intel? Or plant spies to monitor the situation? The plan sounds smart, but there are too many logical loopholes. Relying on a few appeals from commoners to lure billions of people into a battlefield? Who would believe that? Unlike me, who usually looks at the results and the big picture, Zhong Qingshu scrutinized every detail. She pointed out the exact inconsistencies. I frowned slightly. Actually, right now, no one knows what the deep-sea races have or how they'll react. Everyone is just treating them as an unknown variable. If you really think about it, the plan was impossible to execute from the start. All the deep-sea races have to do is capture a few land dwellers, use the chat panel, and they'll know everything. Unless. I paused for a beat. Unless there's some kind of measure, shielding the information from the deep-sea race's perception. Zhong Qingshu shook her head, waving her hand to pull a notebook densely packed with symbols out of thin air. She flipped through a few pages, then analyzed. First, based on my investigations over the past few days, plus the intel you just shared, the fact that humans are actively jumping into the encirclement to counterattack shows they have backing. It's highly likely the government is holding on to some heavy firepower. Second, if the land races really want to surround us, those guys screaming on the chat panel mean nothing. The real anchor lies in the official shelter system. If there are moles in there, that's what's truly terrifying. Third, I advise you not to participate in the upcoming Great War. No one will stop you from going to pick up your sister, but if you dive into a chaotic battle between humans, land races, and deep-sea races, the risks are too high, especially with a sea god about to awaken. Unless you have something beyond their control. She didn't say it outright, but her meaning was crystal clear. Don't get sucked into a deadly vortex. The safest bet is still to retreat. But to me, all that advice was meaningless. Stop. You don't need to persuade me anymore, I said softly but firmly. I'm no saint, and I'm definitely not the type to fight for the righteous cause of humanity. Whether they go to war or not is their business. As for me, I only have one thing to do: survive. I lightly swiped the control panel in the shipyard, my gaze piercing through the bulletproof glass to look at the towering scaffolding ahead. Zhong Qingshu, whether in the past or present, was always cautious, calculating every little detail. But she still couldn't see the heights that I saw. Between life and death, what forged my capability was the system giving me absolute confidence. And the knowledge that surpassed limits was something I dug out myself through one life and death battle after another. They didn't just give me courage, they expanded my vision. Qingshu. I looked at her, my voice deepening. This wasteland, sometimes you feel like it's so vast, vast enough that you can hide anywhere. But sometimes it's so small that, the moment a disaster strikes, you can't escape even if you flee to the ends of the earth. There are times when it's not that I don't want to run, but rather, it won't let me.